traditional radio via YouTube. We've got you covered whichever way you choose. And then to call in, as always, 086 000 2032, WhatsApp 0614, hashtag the National Pulse when you're tweeting, and then tag myself, Ashraf Garda, and do tag SAFM Radio. And I'm sure you may want a position taken by the President regarding at that stage, the incumbent Minister of Police then put on leave of absence on Sunday evening. At the same time, the appointment of Firoz Kachalia as the acting Minister of Police. Then there's been reaction from many people. Yes thing, good idea, bad idea. And then beyond that, the issue of whether we should actually go for another inquiry, as we've had many of that sort. But two voices amongst many have come through that are significant in terms of complaining really about procedures regarding the appointment of the acting police minister and therefore what that means for the person who was sort of half shown at the door. And then I'm talking about the MK party as well as the EFF. In fact, we'll get reaction from both parties on that issue. So let's start up with chatting to the MK party's national spokesperson, Ndlamulo Ndlela. Good to connect with you. It's been a while, Ndlamulo. Thanks for chatting to us on the National Pulse. Ndlamulo, hello. Do I have you there? Okay, we need to connect with him in a moment. Let me tell you, I want to just touch on this because we're going to talk about this just now. Have you been following the story of 30 countries, of course, from a cross-section around the world, including South Africa, who are meeting in Colombia to discuss the ongoing conflict in the Middle East? But specifically around that is the push that with regards to the Israeli position around genocide of Gaza, it can't be simply a pronouncement, which is what has happened up to now. More action needs to be taken. So we'll chat to someone who's there, and we'll do that shortly. Let's get back to the first story. Ndlamulo Ndlela with me. Good to connect with you on the National Pulse as always. Ndlamulo, thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you. Now, note with significance your position as a party calling on Ramaphosa to step down. Tell me why.
Well, thank you for that, Ashraf. Here's what we've seen with this president. The president is quite honestly, he's demonstrated the lack of incompetence. When I heard your show was being opened up, the person there was referring to the pulse of the nation. This president is totally dislodged from the pulse of the nation. I mean, if you listen to the anticlimax of a speech that he gave, where he refers to a special, sending a minister on special leave, as opposed to firing him, and demonstrating that he is a leader who is going to take bold decisions and will not allow criminality, whether it be in cabinet, parliament, or in this country. What a lost opportunity. And we're saying that this president, not only that, but let's not forget that this is a president who himself is implicated and was part of a cover-up with Wally Rhoode in terms of what happened in Phala Phala. But what's interesting is also the fact that the reason he's putting this minister on special leave as opposed to firing him is because we know that the same minister that's carrying and has classified the Phala Phala report that implicates the president himself, as per what happened on that farm. So it's clear that this is political patronage. Now they want to bring about what they call a judicial commission of inquiry. This is nothing else but a political laundromat for them to clean up their mess and to try and find ways of hiding the dirt that they've been involved in, which also, by the way, implicate the president himself. So we're calling on this president, who is a constitutional delinquent, to step down. We cannot continue to have a president who is dislodged from the zeitgeist, from the pulse of this nation, to continue to lead us. South Africans are dying, 64 to 72 South Africans are dying on a daily basis. Our community is scourged with drugs. Our children are suffering at the altar of criminality. We have got mafias, construction mafia, water mafia, all under this same administration. All he can then tell South Africans is that we must wait for another 6 months for him to come up with a third factor, of which, by the way, the same judicial inquiry documentation or recommendations are non-binding to government, neither are they binding to himself. Instead, he has not even seen a day himself for the Phala Phala in court. They can use the issue of the Zondo Commission, which we know they normally tend to use against Mkhonto we Sizwe. But we're saying, let them yield results. We as Mkhonto Wesizwe, our stance is that we don't in any way support any criminality. And if there's even anyone in Mkhonto Wesizwe that's found in any way to be participating in such criminality, let the law take its course. But
Okay.
there's one thing that's very interesting. He himself, if you look at even the Zondo Commission, give me one conviction that has yielded. So these commissions are nothing else but political laundromats, and more than anything else, meant at cleaning up.
So I heard what you said. I mean, of course, you've painted a scenario, or painted a scenario that would be, many people would support you in terms of just so many things that are wrong in the country, right? But I mean, two things here. How much do you attribute that to the incumbent president, or a whole range of failures we've had in the country for many years? And I say that because this is the next point. In one thing, voicing your displeasure, which you're entitled to, but the other is actually calling for the resignation of a person, in this case, the president. Is it so? Do you do that on the basis of we don't think he's leading well, which you have the chance of an election to actually vote him out, or do you nail it down to a specific reason? And is the specific reason his handling of what happened on Sunday evening?
Here's the reality. This president has been a sequence of events. The state of the nation, the state of this country is as per his doings. I can list a number of reasons. But what is now, and this is an issue that we need to raise right now, let's focus on what the current situation is. There's been a number of the multitude. I've also touched on the issue of Phala, for instance. That alone is one. He's got a situation where he's got a minister of his who lied in parliament. Why is he condoning such? And instead, more than anything else, he then flouts the constitution by making a decision to then appoint a person who's coming from outside. By the way, again, going against the constitution, because he can't go and bring in, as per section 98, which he didn't quote when he made that speech. As per section 98, it states categorically that you need to then use, on a temporary basis, a minister within cabinet to preside over another department, such as the case here. But you can't now, which is the situation we're faced with, have three different ministers. You have Mkhunu, you're now going to have Kachalia, and you have the correctly appointed minister in this case, even though we know himself is quite dodgy, in the form of a chairperson who's got his son sitting on boards of CETA, in the form of Gwede Mantashe. So now you have three ministers. Now, who's paying for that? It's South Africans. South Africans are paying for that.
Let me just move on because of time constraints. I mean, I hear all of that, and I understand the issue of paying, and many people have spoken about that, but I mean, in the greater scheme, the paying is less of an issue versus getting things right. Okay, now the point you made about the acting minister, one can debate that constitutionally, and that can change. Are you therefore, and you made the point that the president is dislodged to the pulse of the nation? I mean, thanks for quoting the national pulse. I get that. How do you want the president to move from being dislodged to the pulse of a nation to being, let's say, lodged or connected to the pulse of the nation?
Well, let's talk about his initiative, the so-called national dialogue, which has got a bunch of his friends and elites. No one from the township, no one from any South African who is faced with the plight and the dangers and the challenges that we face on a daily basis, to go and sit there. And he's got all his friends who are more than anything else to stroke his ego. None of them, by the way, are faced with the issues and the zeitgeist that South Africans are faced with on a daily basis, whether it's healthcare, joblessness, unemployment, everything else that we face with the South Africans, including the issue of security. So this president is dislodged from reality. And by the way, when you say that there's other elements that can be argued or discussed or in court or discussed, well, this president has appointed someone unconstitutionally to act in a capacity of minister of police. It is unconstitutional. The constitution is very clear. Section 98, section 91.3, which you referred to, you can't read them in oblivion of the other. So what's important here is that we're demonstrating, as Mkhonto Wesizwe, we're saying that this president is a political and a constitutional delinquent. This whole GNU, by the way, will not even support, and neither will they come out guns blazing in terms of the things that and the issues that we're raising as Mkhonto Wesizwe, because they're enjoying their blue lights. And they know that with Cyril Ramaphosa gone, everything comes to a standstill. And who knows? Maybe even better yet, South Africans need an early election for Mkhonto Wesizwe to come in and take over.
Interesting you say early election. In fact, I was going to ask this question, but I see Khochani asking the same question from Kroonstad to say, why don't you just go to Parliament and put forward a vote of no confidence in the president?
Oh yes, we've stated that. I mean, if you look at our letter, that's one of the things that we've stated, that we've requested, as per Section 102 of the Constitution, that he, in this case, we call for a motion of no confidence. That's the first one, and we've also demonstrated that what you've seen in the streets, we're going to march. We're going to have a program inside and outside of Parliament. We cannot continue to condone a president who continues to be dislodged from society, who continues to be focusing on his elites and to protect his friends and his comrades by way of political patronage, by giving them positions.
Okay, let's pause on the march, because I want to know exactly what the plan is around that, including rolling mass action right after this.
9-time African champions, the Super Falcons are chasing victory to graduate to the semi-finals. But the Copper Queens want to maintain their unbeaten rhythm. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch Nigeria versus Zambia this Friday, 18 July at 5:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, S3 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
I was in another insurance company and I wasn't happy. One of my colleagues was also without insurance and she was happy. My niece is without insurance and she's happy. Then I just decided I wanted that happiness.
What was the real deal they could offer you?
870.
Every month?
Every month.
That's amazing. You're always getting something out.
Yeah.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands.
What brought you and Outsurance together?
Let me just jump on the call with them. Let me just see what's happening. He asked a lot of things about my vehicle, my sexy vehicle over here.
Ooh.
Yeah. And to my surprise, 718 Rand I end up saving. And this awesome product called Panic Assist. 24-hour security if we need their help. Thinking I'm a father, I need to look out for my family.
Absolutely. They gave you the real deal.
It literally is the real deal.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, continue to chat to the spokesperson of the MK party, the national spokesperson, that is Ndlamulo Ndlela. This in reaction to their call for the president of the country, Cyril Ramaphosa, to step down. So, Ndlamulo, you talk then about rolling mass action. Tell me more about the plan. Okay, I think we've just lost Ndlamulo just for a moment. So I tell you what, quick reaction. If you're up for that, feel free to do just that from yourself, and then to call in directly 086 000 2032. We do have Ndlamulo once again back on the line. You spoke about rolling mass action. Explain what the plan is.
Well, as per Section 17 of the Constitution, which allows for us to demonstrate. We're talking about, like we said, this president is dislodged from obviously reality of the people. The people now need to come out in their numbers and demonstrate their displeasure at having a president who's a constitutional delinquent, who doesn't have their interests at heart, and demonstrate it on the streets. Because it is clear that, even when you look at the issue of parliament, remember one of the things that General Mkhwanazi said. He said that even parliamentarians are implicated or complicit in all of this. So if you're going to, for instance, let's say you want to deal with this in Parliament only and have an ad hoc committee, how do we know at this point in time that some of those parliamentarians that will be deployed into that ad hoc committee are not part of those that are actually implicated? That's one. The other one, he mentioned the judiciary that is also implicated. But yet you want to have a judicial commission of inquiry, of which you'll find chances are that even the judges or those that preside over that are also implicated themselves. So this is the maze and the rabbit hole, because the rabbit hole here runs very deep, Ashraf. But what we're saying is that we're going to deal with this inside of Parliament and outside of Parliament. And we cannot, in this case, when we know very well that the task team has been so effective. I mean, there's 436 arrests and 436 charged. Why not allow the police to do their work? Mkhwanazi and Masimola must act swiftly and arrest everyone else that's implicated, including parliamentarians.
So I mean, you may have said this already, but just for the record, so that we're very clear, right? Ramaphosa is not the president of your party, but he's certainly the president of the country. Now, you did say he's disconnected at this point in time. If you could, however, have advised him to say and to take the type of action that you felt was necessary, what would that have been?
If I could, you got cut off a second?
Yeah, if you could have advised him as the president of the country to take the type of action that you think is right, what would that have been?
Mr. President, step down. You are embarrassing the country. You are embarrassing our people. You have no interest for our people. Step down, effective immediately. You are incompetent.
Okay, but what I meant is the action regarding the occurrences, certainly from
It would have been the
and what followed
same.
up.
It would have been the same advice. But the problem is that the ANC, the leadership, they're all implicated and complicit, most of them. And they are scared of him. And that's what we need to be asking ourselves. Are they taking decisions on the basis of political patronage or in the interest of South Africans? And by the way, he is, and they know it very well, he is a liability for them. He's a liability for this country. That is why they're a sub 40% party today, because South Africans have responded to him for his delinquents and his inability to make decisions and lead a country such as South Africa.
Let's end on that part. I'm quoting your statement. It says, it is deeply regrettable that despite the clear message from the electorate, the will of the people has been undermined by opportunistic political alliances. I would think the alliances would be the GNU. How do you know, how do you prove that is the will of the people when the will of the people has given the ANC 40%? Yes, we know, not 50.1, but they haven't given any other party that 50.1 either. So how do we know what the will of the people really is at this point in time?
Well, firstly, the will of the people was not clearly demonstrated in the results of the IEC, and we continued to question the results of the IEC and the elections thereof. And we know that is not a true demonstration or a clear reflection of the will of the people. So if you look at, by the way, you refer to the ANC as a 40% party. No, let's be specific and scientific. They're a 38% party. They're a sub 40% party. In actual fact, to be honest, they are probably even a 20% party. That's how irrelevant and dislodged they are from the society. Now, we know as Mkhonto Wesizwe, just off the back of 6 months of campaigning, that demonstrated that people are tired. That in of itself, and by the way, even that 14% or 15% that we're given, we know we got a whole lot more than that. We know we should be governing a KZN, not this so-called GNU that is there by virtue of for their own political posture. And sorry?
Yeah, no, I got that. Thank you. Okay,
Yes.
you've made your point. Let the electorate decide, maybe with the local election and the general election coming up in another 4 years' time. In Lamulo Indlela, the MK Party national spokesperson, thank you for your time. Now, of course, we'll get quick reaction from you. Again, a call. We heard Alan Busak, in fact, calling for the resignation of the president yesterday. Here's another call in a similar vein, maybe similar reasons, and some even more so. What do you make of that, right? Right, quick calls. I'll get to John in a moment.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Right, reaction. John in Limpopo, go for it.
Yes, afternoon, Ashraf. I think Nkamulo is not okay because Nkamulo is speaking as if tomorrow this South Africa will be tumbling because of what he is saying. He forgot that the president is the president of the country, even if it comes from ANC. And if we want to tell Nkamulo, the real people that are supposed to go to court or prison, we have their leader who is a constitutional delinquent. We have their parliamentary leader who is a judicial delinquent. We have so many people, the bunch of people who are supposed to be arrested. But we are quiet because it's a political party. He cannot come to the public and start giving ultimatum to our president.
Okay,
I think
got
it's
that.
high time.
Yeah. Okay, got that, John. Thank you for that. Can't give an ultimatum. And in fact, many made the same point now about the MK, and I've let him say what he wanted to say. Many said the same thing about Alan Busak yesterday, effectively, disregarding the president when one may look at their own track record. Mboni in Cape Town, you run the air. Go for it.
Hi, good afternoon, Ashraf.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for taking my call and your team.
Pleasure.
And thank you for the nice show. Ashraf, I just want to ask a very small question, maybe for my understanding. I just want to understand, when does one is subjected to a commission of inquiry, and when does one is subjected to go straight to court? Because for me, as an ordinary citizen, I don't actually really understand when if someone, because I'm of the opinion that even if you go to court, you are still alleged to have committed something. So
All right.
is it for high profile people, or is it when is it that we have?
I'll tell you what, we'll get a further response on that, because we're going to speak to another analyst coming up around 5:20 on that issue about when. But my broad sense of it, if it's just one person, yes, you can take that person to court. An inquiry normally is when there are multiple issues that appears to go wrong, where there's an entire division or department that appears to be completely rotten, and an investigation needs to be done in that. In this case here, it would be state security, I would think, right? And therefore, or safety and security, and therefore it requires a mass investigation. But that, of course, comes at the behest of the president, who makes that call. So hopefully, but you'll get response on that further on, coming up at 5:20. Okay, let's get the news headlines. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, City Power says businesses in and around Johannesburg owe it over 60 billion rand. The electricity entity has urged customers and business owners to come forward and make payment arrangements. Social media law expert Emma Sedler has urged parents to monitor their children's activities on social media platforms, particularly on WhatsApp. And the Israeli military says it's carried out a drone strike on the Syrian militarist headquarters in Damascus. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N4 eastbound in Pretoria is where police incidents reported before Bon Accord exit. The N3 northbound in Bedfordview, slow moving on the ramp to the N12 east at Gillies interchange. And the M2 westbound in Crown has delays towards Main Reef Road. In KZN, Umgeni Road westbound, slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound, slow moving towards Milner Road. The M3 is queuing at Rhodes Drive, and Victoria Road outbound, slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, you have lots on your mind, but I know cricket is amongst them, yeah?
Yeah, and it's not looking great for the Proteas in Harare, chasing 174 for victory. The Proteas are 62 for 5 after 8.4 overs in their T20 Tri-Nations clash against New Zealand. The run rate required climbing fast, nearly 10 and over. And it seems like our middle order has collapsed under pressure. And, we've had a solid win over Zimbabwe in the opener, and it appears this Kiwi test is proving tougher. And we'll keep an eye on it with more updates later on the show. On to rugby now. The junior Springboks, they'll face New Zealand in the final of the 2025 World Rugby Under-20 Championships on Saturday, taking place in Italy. It's reigniting a rivalry between the two proud rugby nations. It's South Africa's first final appearance since 2014. After a commanding 48-24 win over Argentina, New Zealand booked their spot earlier with a victory over France. Here's the junior Springboks captain, Riley Norton.
We don't need any more motivation. Like Coach Kevin says, you dream of a stage like this, playing on Saturday, facing the haka. The tradition and the history of New Zealand and South African rugby is just unbelievable. We love playing against each other. We have great respect for each other, and it's going to be a battle for 80 minutes. So we're extremely excited. We won't need any more motivation. The guys I know they'll be keen and they'll be up for it, just like New Zealand will be. And I think it's going to be an unbelievable game of rugby. So we're extremely excited for it.
On to golf, South Africa's Christian Bezuidenhout will be teeing off with confidence at the 153rd Open Championship at Royal Portrush in Northern Ireland. Fresh off a top 15 finish at the Scottish Open, Bezuidenhout holds a strong contingent including former champion Louis Oosthuizen, Dean Burmester and rising star Ulrich Potgieter. South Africa's Tristan Lawrence, Dylan Naidoo and Daniel van Tonder are also in the hunt for the Claret Jug. And finally, athletics. We've got Eastern Province Athletics has formally requested a special council meeting with Athletics South Africa by submitting a letter. The EPA president Stix Sichling has told SABC Sport that the letter was prompted by the ASA's recent appearance before the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Sports, Arts and Culture, where concerns were raised about the Federation's credit card use between December 2022 and January 23. The EPA board highlights 3 key issues in the letter: the 2 recent parliamentary committee meetings and the sports minister's public announcement about plans to launch a forensic investigation into ASA's finances.
I think the letter is really, if you read it, I think it's really straightforward. It's about, we all know there were things happening, and some commissions, and some, from South Sport, from Minister of Sport. But, the biggest problem is that as of now, we haven't had any formal, communication from the new ASA board to tell us what is the plan, what is, what's happening now, because they had some meetings, but we, as a province, we don't know, and our people are asking, what's going on, and what is the situation and the position, and we need clarification on the aspects, and the way forward.
From athletics, we go live to Harare again, with the Proteas in a bit of a pickle. They're chasing 174 to win. They are 72 for 5 after 9.1 overs against New Zealand. More sport, top of the hour. For the National Pulse, I'm Zai Khan.
SAFM. If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Hi, I'm Gabriela Salgado, Banyana player. Any song from Chris Brown could literally put me in the mood and make sure that I'm good to go. My favorite motivational quote: trust the process, but know that God is with you, you will always succeed. Between being a pilot and driving a bus, definitely a pilot, to see the world and to take people along with me. South Africa, tune in to SABC Sport as we take on the Giants in the WAFCON. We are the champions. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
SAFM, in collaboration with the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz, brings you the Jazz for Young People concert, happening at the National School of the Arts on the 26th of July 2025. Tune in to Seasons and the Soundtrack of Your Life, broadcasting live. This unique event is a powerful celebration of youth, creativity, and community spirit. Bring the whole family to enjoy a wonderful day of world-class jazz from young musicians, curated by Zoe Mudicha, featuring National School of the Arts Band, Willow Crescent Magnet School of Music Band, Biko's Manor, and many others. Have fun while doing good. Tickets are available at Quicket for just 80 Rand and 50 Rand for kids under 12. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
We'll talk about Palestine and Israel in a moment, in partnership, in the meantime, in partnership with SAFM. Hear the rhythm, feel the heat at the Imbawula Music Festival, where music, culture and community come alive. Join SAFM on the 2nd of August 2025 at Pretoria Botanical Gardens. That's from 10 a.m. up to 10 p.m. So a whole day, right? To vibe to Sun El musician, Calvin Momo, Amanda Black, Zine Ngumalo, Trumpies and more. More than music, share stories, spark change and unite against gender-based violence. You can get your tickets. Go to the website imbawula.co.za. Brought to you by SAFM and SABC1. Hear the rhythm, feel the heat. Imbawula.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube and X at SAFM Radio.
In fact, I'd love to know where you're listening from, because people listen to us on radio traditionally. They listen to us on streaming live audio. People listen via the SABC Plus app. People listen to us via YouTube, where you can see me visually presenting the show. And then also the same streaming live video is on the X Twitter platform and the same on Facebook. I'd love to know where do you listen? How do you listen? You can tweet it out, hashtag the National Pulse, and you can also send us a WhatsApp right away. Just a quick comment or text message 0614 104 107. Right. In fact, let's get a quick call before we connect to Colombia with Thomas in Newcastle. Also wants to talk about the MK party. Thomas, go for it. Hi.
Ashraf, good afternoon, and the whole essay.
Good afternoon.
The problem, Ashraf, with the whole thing of Nhlamulo, people have already said it, just to reiterate. We can't be told by people like them, even their leader right now has been stalling since the first or second administration from accounting. And he keeps saying, what have I done? So Nhlamulo is speaking for his tummy just as much as the ANC government is. So I don't take people like him serious. Even now, he can't recognize a simple thing that South Africans have decided to do, a government of national unity. Whether wrong or right, but that's what we've decided, and some of us agree with it. But he goes on and disregard us, disrespect us, and say, because they feel it is the wrong thing to do, national unity government, so that
well, I completely concur with you. I mean, that is why when we speak to people like him, I mean, he's a spokesperson of a party, so we talk to him, right? But in terms of that, yes, there's a lot of statements made about the current president, and one can go back to the previous presidents. But I mean, our job is not to reflect on the past all the time, because that's another conversation. However, the point about the will of the people is something that I picked up on, and exactly your point. How does he know what the will of the people is? So when spokespeople make, spokespersons make statements like that and believe that the ANC's got 28% or something of the vote, then it's up to you to decide whether he's right or whether he's wrong. And based on that, that's where you'll know where your leadership lies, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. To me, Ashraf, as soon as we get a genuine politician, we will vote out the ANC. But right now, all these guys, they're just in for their tummy, and they will disagree for the sake of wanting to get their hand in a purse. So we don't trust them.
Okay, got that. Well, maybe that's the role of opposition parties. They would certainly make themselves relevant by disagreeing, but I mean, many others would also disagree with the president on many issues, including his leadership. Understandably so. Thanks for that, Thomas. You've put it on the agenda. Let's get to Bruce in Gqeberha. Hi, Bruce.
Yes, hi, Ashraf. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
Ashraf, I just feel so desperate at the moment with what's happening with our president, and what an absolute disappointment. I mean, we are literally standing on the edge of the abyss, and I don't see the man taking anything seriously. I mean, what's going to happen to the automotive industry now on the 1st of August when there's silence is deafening? And this criminal enterprise, I've realized how it actually works in the ANC.
So what should he do differently? Why I'm asking, I mean, being a leader is immensely complex. I mean, it's not as simple as just showing someone a door, isn't it? What should he be doing differently?
But I mean, he's blown so many at every single opportunity. What about the state capture report? 2 years of doing nothing. We should have been on the streets a long time. It's just mind-boggling that he's sitting on that report. The man's obviously captured and compromised, and I think this is why it is, Ashraf, and I might be wrong. From listening to all the analysts and my own understanding, there's clearly criminal participation in what's happening at leadership level. And then I think there's different criminal syndicates operating, and everyone's got their fingers in the pie in one shape or next. So now you've got Ramaphosa sitting at the top. He knows all of this is happening. Now, the ANC is a massive machine that needs huge funding. How do you fund the ANC? Well, everyone who gets a nice big tender, I think it's all understood there's X amount has to go to the party. Now, a lot of those tenderpreneurs, they themselves are involved with gangsters. If you're an official sitting in ANC, Gauteng or whatever, you're not worried. You're trying to get the funding to the ANC. Who's working with who and how?
All right. I hear you.
You agree.
Bruce, well, I mean, I hear you. And I think, look, largely, if you even listen to what Mkhwanazi said the other day, there's a concern about crisscrossing of alliances and compromises. So it's not just you saying it or me saying it. I mean, somebody who was very much in the police service saying just the same thing. However, I mean, and this is the big point. Thanks for that call, Bruce. Here's the big point about the president. Why would, if anything, okay, if the president, if we're following what has been said, that there's expedience being in power because there's lots of privileges that are gained from that, and I'm talking about financial privileges, not for the president, but for the entire ANC, then it is in their interest then, if that is the case, to stay in power. Now, if they want to stay in power, the best way to stay in power is to get delivery right, get everything working and stay in power. So why would they deliberately then undermine the entire country when they know that will cost them their positions in the next election? Just think about that. I'm not discussing the morality. I'm talking about the reality of the situation. Ramokhadi in Woodbank, go for it. Hello.
Yes, Chief. How are you?
Yeah, good indeed. Right. What's your point?
Okay. My point is this, Chief. We are tired of this Ramaphosa's commission. Phelan Commission, Marikana Commission, SCD Commission, State Capture Commission. So I personally appeal to EFF and other political, of course, love of this country to make sure that Ramaphosa is impeached. That's all what I want to say. Ramaphosa must be impeached. He cannot lead the country, so we cannot have a leader who cannot take decisive decisions. So that's all what I want to say, Chief. Thank you.
Okay, got that. There we are. That's another point. And by the way, on the issue of state capture, I'm not saying right and wrong. It's a big issue. But just listen, by the way, to that conversation I had with Feroz Kachania yesterday, now the incoming Minister of Police, because he spoke about recommendations made in terms of the Zondo Commission and the processes where he sits on, speaking outside as being the Minister of Police, and the recommendations made and the steps that have got to be taken place now. And he said, it's happening soon. I'm not saying he's right. I'm saying that's what he said. So please listen to that podcast, safm.co.za. You will find it. Right, we are struggling to connect to Colombia, which is a huge pity. Hopefully we'll do that as soon as we can. But we want to pick up on some significant changes in the wholesale and retail sector, CETA, which you need to talk about, or we need to talk about right after this.
SAFM.
My name is Dino Makakula, the goalkeeper for Banyana. I like cooking stew and pap, bit of dessert, which is scones. What will I say to the loyal fans? We acknowledge your support and we appreciate you being with us each and every step of the way. Please keep on supporting, keep on working with us in this journey that we took as individuals and as a team. We appreciate it. We are the champions. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
This Mandela Month, SAFM celebrates the spirit of Ubuntu, calling on all South Africans to engage, uplift, and do good for one another. Let's share what we have, lend a helping hand, and honor Madiba's legacy through kindness and action. Join SAFM as we bring you powerful conversations, inspiring stories, and voices that drive change all month long. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
So, you've been watching it, I'm sure you have, Chasing the Sun. Remember that brilliant documentary? It's a 5-part documentary that effectively reflects this magnificent World Cup victory of the 29 Springbok Rugby World Cup. Now, we know it's rugby season now, so you're all very excited about that. So, part 2 happens this Sunday, 7:30 p.m. And really, it's an absolutely magic documentary. So, do watch it. And by the way, not just on television, if you download the SABC Plus app, you can stream it as well. Anytime, anywhere, no subscription needed. You got it? Chasing the Sun, Sunday, 7:30 p.m. on SABC2. Be there when history shines.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, there are lots of issues around the wholesale and retail sectors. What about their education authority, the CETA, for WNR CETA? Now, the chief executive of the wholesale and retail sector education and training authority is Tom Mkhwanazi. And he's been visiting different provinces, engaging with the retail sector stakeholders and also assessing the sector's impact and the value of its grants. Now, during the visits, Mkhwanazi has noted, amongst many other things, that, and this is so important, there's a very low number of the learnership beneficiaries who pursue small businesses within that sector. That's such a big issue. Let's find out more about it, right, with the CEO, Tom Mkonazi. Appreciate your time, as always, on the National Pulse. Hello.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your listeners, and thank you for the interview.
Thank you. Well, you know what, I often talk about building champions, individuals who can be best in class. So the point that you've raised is very disturbing, because we need desperately to upskill people in all sectors of society. But I see you sort of detected a bit of a stumbling block, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's true. We need to do that, and I think for our economy, in order to grow, we need to have more entrepreneurs and SMMEs building the economy. And I think the contribution in South Africa is almost 30%, while in most of the countries where the growth is above 8%, like Ethiopia and India, there's a 60% contribution from entrepreneurs and SMMEs.
Okay, why such a disconnect then? What have we done? Because a lot of the output is very dependent on the input and the natural terrain. When I say natural, not landscape as you would gather, but the terrain economically and socio-economically of our country.
I think it's a wide range of issues. I think, for example, it's parents. They want all the young people to go to university, study, and work. The environment also is that we're not creating an enabling environment for young people to strive and get into that space. And then that issue is issues of skills. Universities do provide education, but we need to sharpen skills for young people, and that's our role as a SETA. To really ensure that we provide skills for young people to get into entrepreneurship, and also support them when they start their small businesses through skills development, and so that they can grow their businesses.
Now, I mean, the point that I need to punctuate is your point about a very low number of the learnership beneficiaries then pursue small businesses. So two things. When you say low, how low? What percentage of these people who've done the learnership programs who then continue into, or rather graduate, let's call it that, into actually owning a small business?
Probably less than 10% of our learners. For 50 to 60% of our learners really graduate from our programs and they finish the program. But we find that 10% of that really go into entrepreneurship and almost starting their own businesses.
So just about 10%. So what happens to the rest of them?
Well, obviously they get into employment, the majority of them. Or sometimes they just sit at home. As I said to you, almost 60%, you would find that probably 30% would probably go back into the economy, probably go back into another learnership when they go and study. We find that some of them go back and study because they think that getting a degree will then make them, to get employment.
But do you find, therefore, I mean, I would hope that you would do that. You would do some research in terms of understanding the decisions they make. That means, and I'm obviously speculating. Do they then not get into entrepreneurship because the barriers to entry are so large? Never mind the fact that they've done a learnership. There are other factors around, networks, around maybe financial injections, around location, around other types of support that even though they've done the learnership, they still don't have.
Yes, I think it's all the issues that you have indicated, but also I think the issue is about us as a SETA. We really focus on skills development. However, we've now started to ensure that we work then with other organizations that can then deal with issues of funding, access. For example, we've got a program that we've done with Boxer Superstores, where when they finished the program, and then we've then went into Boxer Superstores and said, can we then assist these young people that have finished, that are in the small scale farming, that needs to sell their stuff, so that you can then create access in terms of opportunities. So I think those are the opportunities that we need to start creating because they are not there. It's really difficult. They do not necessarily know where and what doors to knock on. In terms of
and this is even after the learnership, because I certainly know many people who have these incubator programs that assist sort of entrepreneurs, but you're saying even then there's still a disconnect.
No, there's still a disconnect, and what we have been preaching as WNR CETA is that there is power in collaboration. So if we all work together, those that are in the big business work together, those that are doing incubation, that are doing a mentorship, the institutions that are providing funding, if we can then start moving towards all working together and creating that ecosystem that works for our young people, we will see traction. Because if I leave them from a skills development point of view, then they are lingering and they do not know really what they need to do. So that is why we started working with organizations like CEDA and economic development in provinces.
Okay, now we know it's obvious why we need more young people employed. There's a mass unemployment in our country anyway. It's even more pronounced with younger people. So it's a crisis. There's no question about that, right? But and of course for many people, the get out of jail card free is be entrepreneurial, right? But you and I know that not everybody who needs a job are naturally entrepreneurial. And I just bring that up because I read an interesting piece from John Foster Pedley. Now, of course, he's the head of the Henley Business School, so he's somebody who ought to know. And he made the point, and I'm paraphrasing, that in fact not enough attention is being paid to convert older people into entrepreneurship versus younger people, because globally, statistically, the stats suggest that it is the person who's actually been through other things and then corporate and then becomes entrepreneurial, let's say at 40 plus, maybe 50 plus, who actually build very successful businesses versus simply being an entrepreneur because that's another word for a job.
I mean, he's making a very, very important point. And that is why in our programs, we've got programs for young people for entrepreneurships. And then we've got SMME project. As I said, I mean, we look at about 3,000 every year, where we're focusing on those that are already running their own businesses, where we are focusing on them because you're right. Over time, they've acquired a number of skills. So it's really easier for them to then navigate an environment where an entrepreneur would meet hurdles. For example, an entrepreneur would, when we're teaching entrepreneurship, we don't talk about the municipality. We do not talk about the compliance issues that we are going to face. We do not talk about a whole range of other hurdles that we are going to meet on the way. But if you've been there and you are older, you already know how to where to go to.
Well, there we are. Let's hope something happens. Just the last thing, I mean, and I know it's complex, but if there's one thing you could, by decree change, like ASAP, considering all the things you've already said, what would that be?
I think the only thing that we must do is to ensure that all the programs that we're doing, whether it's at a university, at a TVET college, even at a school, at least we just have a little bit of program on entrepreneurship, so that young people just start thinking in terms of shifting their mindset in terms of where they need to go as they move ahead, and focus on career guidance regarding issues related to entrepreneurship.
Well, let's leave it at that. That sounds so obvious, and we just wonder why that's not being done. Another conversation for those in education. Tom Mkonazi, CEO of the WNR CETA, which is the Wholesale and Retail Sector Education and Training Authority. And here's the bottom line. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated. Here's the bottom line to that. In terms of those who go for training in learnerships by the CETA, only about 10% then convert from learning about entrepreneurship to actually getting involved in entrepreneurship proper. The 90% don't do that. maybe you have a solution to that as well. Right, further comments from you are welcome. Pity we could not connect for some reason with our guest in Bogota in Colombia, but I can tell you this much. You may be aware that over the last 2 days, 30 states from around the world have been gathering in Bogota in Colombia for a multilateral effort. The plan is to halt genocide in Gaza. They're saying in this emergency conference, which has been convened by Colombia and South Africa, called the Hague Group, they seek to, and this is important, to turn international condemnation into coordinated legal and diplomatic action. What that really means, I don't know, in terms of how do you turn that from condemnation into actual legal and diplomatic action. We'll see. But the plan is to try and connect with them later on, so do stay tuned for that. Right now, it's 4 o'clock. It's time for the news with Ondela Mbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the top stories, businesses around Johannesburg owe billions of electricity, and Israeli military carries out a drone strike on Syrian military headquarters. For SAFM News, I'm Ondela Mbana, and a very good afternoon. City Power says businesses in and around Johannesburg owe over 60 billion rand. The electricity entity has urged customers and business owners to come forward and make payment arrangements. City Power spokesperson Isaac Mangena says they embarked on a revenue collection drive in Braamfontein today and disconnected defaulting businesses and residential complexes.
As the city, we are sitting at about 64 billion rands that is basically owed across the city of Johannesburg. And it is a really worrying phenomenon because the expectation is that the businesses would have profit that they're making and they should be able to pay for the services that they are using.
Social media law expert Emma Sadler has urged parents to monitor their children's activities on social media platforms, particularly on WhatsApp. The Gauteng High Court on Monday ordered Meta platforms to shut down anonymous Instagram accounts and WhatsApp channels distributing graphic child pornography involving South African school children. Sadler said the director of the digital law company turned to the court on an urgent basis when she became aware of the explicit content.
I really urge every parent listening to go and look at their child's WhatsApp account and go through if they are following any channels. All the rules around digital hygiene, looking after children, knowing what they're up to, making sure that young children are not on social media. And very, very dangerous is this idea that WhatsApp is not social media. What we're seeing is that WhatsApp is not just social media. It's actually more dangerous than the other platforms because of these huge channels and because there's just zero accountability. No person identified on any of the platforms, and they're just doing whatever they want to.
The R71 road at Magoebaskloof outside Tzaneen in Limpopo remains closed to traffic after gas cylinders being carried on a truck exploded after the vehicle lost control and veered off the road. The explosion also caused a runaway felt fire. The driver escaped with minor injuries. Firefighter India Ramalebe says the explosion was massive.
We are firefighters. We came here last night after the accident. There's a serious felt fire. We couldn't reach the accident scene last night because the road was closed. I only managed to reach the scene this morning. I have never seen such a serious accident in my life. It's bad.
The Kimberley Magistrate Court has postponed the case of 9 suspects linked to a 51 million rand tender awarded during the construction of the Northern Cape Mental Hospital. Legal representatives of former MEC Transport, Roads and Public Works John Block, his former HOD Patience Mukhali and businessman Tseholika Mutaung, who were arrested in May 2023, submitted an application for the court to investigate the delays in the case. In May 6, more people were arrested and added to the case. Karabo Sioko reports.
The defense has submitted an application to have the case that started in May 2023 withdrawn.
They say the matter is moving at a snail's pace and is constantly being postponed. Today, the state requested time to review the application by the defense to have the matter struck off the roll, which they claim was submitted late. The matter will be back in court at the end of the month. All accused persons are out on bail. Karabo Sioko, SABC News, Kimberley.
The Israeli military says it's carried out a drone strike on the Syrian military's headquarters in Damascus. It says the attack, which is said to have struck the entrance of the complex, followed actions against Druze civilians in southern Syria. The BBC's Mark Thompson has the details.
This is the latest Israeli strike against the forces of Syria's government, which Israel considers a threat, both to itself and to Syria's Druze community. Many Druze live in Israel and some serve in its army. Over the last 2 days, the IDF has launched airstrikes against Syrian security forces sent to curb deadly sectarian clashes in the predominantly Druze Zuwayda province. These have reportedly killed nearly 250 people. Israel says it's sending more troops to its border with Syria.
Recapping the top story, City Power says businesses in and around Johannesburg owe over 60 billion rand. The electricity entity has urged customers and business owners to come forward and make payment arrangements. I'm Mandela Month for SFM News Headlines at 4:30.
Welcome to SFM Sport. We've got live action underway. The Proteas taking on New Zealand, and they are on 135 for 7. They need 39 runs in 25 balls to win. And we'll also bring you the Sports, Arts and Culture Minister, Gayton McKenzie. And that's the VAR issue. Will we get it? Will we not? All this and more just before 4:30.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N4 eastbound in Pretoria is where crime scene is reported before Bon Accord exit, and the M1 northbound as roadworks reported with traffic restrictions at Woodmead. In KZN, the N2 southbound has a crash after Spaghetti Junction, and on South Coast Road, truck congestion reported in Rosberg area, so expect delays. In Cape Town, the M3 is queuing at Rhodes Drive and Victoria Road outbound, slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
SAFM.
Are you looking for the best savings on spectacles? At Specsavers, enjoy 1,500 Rand off when you get tested at South Africa's trusted and most established optical group. Get 1,500 Rand off all frames in store, or use your 1,500 Rand off on our leading lens enhancements, such as drive light lenses that reduce artificial glare whilst driving. Book online or call your nearest store today. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
It all starts with FNB Private. Diversify your portfolio to grow your wealth. Gain global exposure through shares or unit trusts on the FNB app. Tap into international investments and tax-efficient offshore trusts to build your legacy. Unlock invaluable with FNB Private. Help changes everything. FNB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP and credit provider. FNB International Trustees, FNB IT registration number 3080. Licensed by the Guernsey Financial Services Commission to conduct fiduciary business. T's and C's apply.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, what's moving the National Pulse today? There are some days when it's such an obvious thing where one big story overwhelms not just the show, but the entire country, right? So on other days, it may not be the case. It's sort of multiple issues. And by the way, I mean, as I talk to you, I've been following some of the issues in Parliament and their commentary or comments on policing and justice. There's a meeting around that. We'll play some clips around that later on. That is certainly an issue that moves the national pulse, right? Now, the other is comment on the conversation I had with Ndlamulo. You may also, from the MK party, you may also comment on the goings-on in Colombia regarding the challenge to Israel, although we didn't have a guest. We'll hopefully do that later on. But also, maybe this point too, right, which is the issue of the future of the Road Accident Fund itself. Because you may know this, we touched on it yesterday. Late yesterday, the Minister of Transport, Barbara Creasy, dissolved the board of directors of the Road Accident Fund. Now, why? Well, there's been big issues around governance and operational challenges and that have beset the Road Accident Fund, and therefore, obviously, it's undermines the fund's ability to discharge its statutory mandate. I mean, one of them is obviously to deliver to the beneficiaries that that have been affected by what has happened around accidents, so that they can move on with their lives or their families, right? So let's find out what this means, certainly from the Association for the Protection of Road Accident Victims, right? And with me is Nwako Motalocha, who's the Deputy Chairperson for the Association for Protection of the Road Accident Fund Victims. Appreciate you connecting with us on the National Pulse. Hello.
Good evening, Ashraf, and to the listeners of SAFM. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. So when you heard that the minister dissolved the board of directors of the RAF for Road Accident Fund, you said what? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
Ashraf, the minister, Mr. Barbara Creasy, in June, July last year, after the formation of the GNU, one of her very first few comments on the RAF was that the governance issues at the fund are quite worrisome and they need to be attended to. So I believe that she needed to first understand and familiarize herself with what is happening at the fund before she could take this action. And if you follow the developments that have been happening around Scopa, you will agree with me when I say that it has long been coming.
Well, I think many people listening would say absolutely. To what degree, because I mean it comes from the very top, right? To what degree, therefore, has, and ultimately it's the most important issue, that in terms of where you fit, in terms of victims of the road and the protection of road accident victims, right? Has it undermined your ability to discharge to those that truly matter?
Ashraf, if you consider the mandate of the RAF, and I've heard you say one of the mandates. In fact, in our view, the RAF has got one key mandate to compensate victims of road crashes. Now, if the governance issues within the fund affect its core mandate, obviously as APRAF we're going to be worried. So our view is that we need a board that's going to make sure that the governance issues are smooth, to make sure that the fund can ultimately fulfill its core mandate, which is compensate victims of road crashes. Now the minister complains that there were issues within the RAF, as a result of which the fund was therefore not able to fulfill its core mandate. And on that basis, I agree with what the minister has done.
Now, here's the point. I mean, what's the difference between the board itself and certainly those who are involved in the operations of the Road Accident Fund? I mean, to what degree has the problems of the board impacted even operationally on the organization?
Bear in mind that the board is the voice through which the minister expresses her wishes within the RAF, and the board is there to make sure that governance is being done properly. Now, the board is the voice through which the minister can find expression in what is happening within the organization. Obviously, there's an executive there, which then is accountable to the board. And if the minister is of the view that the executive is doing certain things wrong, she'll obviously say to the board, make sure that the executive is getting his house in order. Now, if the board is seen to be failing to do that, obviously what's next? The next available avenue for the minister is to look at the board, and if there's blame to be put or apportioned, the minister's first point of call will be to the board.
Okay. And your thoughts in terms of understanding what happened initially, what went wrong and over what period, that it therefore has undermined certainly the board's ability or the RAF's ability to deliver on its, as you said, its absolute sole mandate, and therefore in terms of where you fit in, and therefore your inability as well to deliver to the people that truly matter.
A lot of things have happened at the RAF, Ashraf. First up in 2020 or so, the leadership of the RAF did not renew the panel of attorneys that were representing the RAF in court matters. Now, bear in mind that the RAF is operating in a very litigious environment. They are in court on a regular basis. In fact, they are clogging the court rolls, at least I know in Joburg, Pretoria, Cape Town, Durban, and I think other courts as well. Now, if the fund goes to court unrepresented, they are therefore not prepared to defend themselves in court, as a result of which then matters are postponed and there are default judgments which then are being appealed. That's one other thing. Now, we've seen a situation where the executive leadership of the RAF has introduced something that they call a board notice, which puts an extra layer of requirements, extra to what this RAF Act stipulates. Now, we see the board notice as a means to discourage victims of road crashes from further, claiming what is due to them from the road accident fund. Now, what seemed to Ike, the minister, and anger there was the insistence by the RAF to take the AGSA to court on the difference of approach in terms of the accounting standard. But in our view, there are other more serious issues which we believe the minister should look into, that which impedes or hinder victims of road crashes from claiming. Among those is the board notice, which, by the way, the court have found to be illegal on two different occasions.
Just lastly, therefore, so the dissolving of the board may be a thumbs up from your side for the reasons you've mentioned, but at this point in time, it's not a case of dissolving the board on the Monday and appointing a new board on the Tuesday. There could well be a vacuum. How would that vacuum, I don't know how long it may take, in fact compromise even certainly the victims or the beneficiaries in terms of the Road Accident Fund actually in the short term and long term?
Ashraf, it is our assumption that there are systems in place in the RAF which have to be followed to make sure that the compensation is not disturbed by the vacuum that could possibly be created by the disbandment of the board. We are also calling on the minister. I understand she's going to put together an advisory panel. We are calling on her to encourage the panel to consult and speak to the stakeholders. We consider ourselves to be a key stakeholder, and we propose solutions before to government through parliament for what we believe could be best practice for the RAF. So we are hoping and praying that the minister will exercise due care and diligence to make sure that whatever action she is going to take going forward will not disturb and hinder the progress of the payment of claims by the RAF.
Let's leave it at that. And I'll tell you what, as we talk, I think that last part, we are hoping and praying, maybe is the telling operative words that I think certainly those who are, victims or the beneficiaries thereof would be holding on to, right? Appreciate your time. Best wishes for what happens next with regard to the Road Accident Fund. Mwako Motlalocha, the Deputy Chairperson, as well as spokesperson of the Association for the Protection of Road Accident Victims. And this in response to the Minister, Barbara Creasy, dissolving the Road Accident Fund Board yesterday, which many may say no surprises at all considering some of the problems they've been bedeviled with. You are connected very much so to the National Pulse, and that's why I know it. You're on the Pulse, aren't you?
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Temba, how do I check if I've been auto-assessed by SARS?
No need to stress at all. Go to the SARS online query system dashboard, SOX. It only takes a few minutes.
Really? Where do I find it?
Go to the SARS website and then look for the SOX dashboard icon. Make tax matters your priority number one. Go to sars.gov.za and say goodbye to queues. SARS, at your service.
Tani Esther, or should I say the Tupperware Tani? How's business going?
Business is booming. I've been operating out of the boot of my car for 10 years, but shame, it couldn't keep up with my growing empire.
Okay, so you sold it to We Buy Cars?
Yes, quick. Sold my old one, bought a bigger one. I even sold some of my Tupperware to the friendly guy who picked up my car.
Stick to what you know best, eh, Tani?
Excuse me?
Never mind. We Buy Cars. Geared for your business, geared for you.
9-time African champions, the Super Falcons are chasing victory to graduate to the semi-finals. But the Copper Queens want to maintain their unbeaten rhythm. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch Nigeria versus Zambia this Friday, 18 July at 5:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, S3 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Right, in partnership with SAFM, hear the rhythm, feel the heat at the Imbawula Music Festival, where music, culture and community come alive. You can join us on the 2nd of August 2025, so a couple of weeks to go, at the Pretoria Botanical Gardens from 10 a.m. up to 10 p.m. to vibe to Sun Al musician Calvin Momo, Amanda Black, Z Ngomalo, Trumpies, and, well, even more, right? More than music, share stories, spark change, and unite against gender-based violence. Grab your tickets at imbawula.co.za. Brought to you by SAFM and SABC 1. Hear the rhythm, feel the heat. You've got that? Imbawula.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM. SAFM.
Well, who wants to be, not a millionaire, but who wants to be the president of South Africa? It's about everyday decisions he's got to take, but he's also very much in the line of fire, isn't it? We've had a conversation already, well, yesterday with Alan Busak, right? Calling for his resignation, says he's got to step down. And please listen to that podcast. Agreed or not, you'll need to catch that podcast. Listen, share it, have a conversation with your family over supper about it. Number two, early on we chatted to the spokesperson for the MK party saying the same thing. He's got to resign, he's got to step down or else. Now, in the same vein, there are legal challenges now from the EFF regarding specifically the position of his decision to place the Minister of Police, Senzo Mkhunu, on special leave and then replace him with now Professor Feroz Kachalia as the acting Minister of Police. Let's understand the EFF's angle with Mazwi Loze, who is an MP at the EFF. Mazwi, I appreciate your time. You're on the National Pulse.
Afternoon, Ashraf, to you and the listeners at home.
Thank you. So tell me, and give me some context in terms of what's your position regarding the changes that have been made, and then your position in terms of what do you want to happen next?
Look, Ashraf, from the time that the president would have made the announcement responding to the allegations of the provincial commissioner of KZN, we immediately cited some legal delinquency from the president in terms of him trying to appoint an acting minister into the cabinet. So we have officially written to him through our lawyers. And there's basically 4 things that we are highlighting, seeking clarity from him. One, we are questioning the powers of the president in placing Minister Mkhunu on special leave, because we believe that the Constitution does not allow for ministers to be placed on special leave. In fact, the Section 91(2) explicitly says that the president must appoint ministers and deputy ministers, assign them powers, and dismiss them. So it doesn't speak of anything of special leave. But 2, we are questioning, if is it legally possible for a person to remain a member of cabinet without any responsibilities? Because in our sense, Mkhunu is just going to be a member of cabinet without any responsibilities, without any functions. And we are questioning if that is actually legally allowed. But 3, the appointment of Prof. Kachala as an acting minister, we are saying that is not allowed. You cannot outsource acting roles of a cabinet minister to a non-cabinet member. So if you need to appoint acting roles, that roles can only be given to a current cabinet member. So if Prof. Katalia needs to act as a minister of police, he must firstly be a cabinet member, be assigned functions for himself, and then only can he take up acting roles of another cabinet member if they're unable to perform those functions.
Okay.
So our letter really is seeking clarity on those
All right.
things.
I mean, on the Prof. Katalia part, I mean, there's been lots of discussion around it. So you're saying, principally, at this point in time, your issue is not with Prof. Katalia in terms of him and his person, but what you're saying is that there would be no, I would suppose, you'd be fine with him being the actual Minister of Police, but not the acting minister, because the actual minister, he would be allowed to do that even if he's from outside of Parliament, right?
No. So what we are basically saying, Ashraf, is that if the president has intention to appoint Prof. Kachala into the cabinet, the constitution allows him to do that he can appoint two members who are not MPs into the cabinet. So the president cannot appoint Prof. Kachala on an acting role into the cabinet. So if you want to appoint him, you must appoint him as a member of cabinet first, and then give him the functions of acting roles. Because Section 98 speaks of the temporary functions, that those temporary functions must be given to current members. So the way the president wants to execute this is legally flawed. The first process is to appoint Kachala into cabinet, give him his functions, give him his roles, and then you can then give him, or maybe just appoint him straight and say you are making him the Minister of Police. Then it ends there.
Okay,
but,
point
but
taken.
don't give him
Which means for him to be the Minister of Police, really, your challenge is not with him, but actually with the outgoing Minister of Police on the person who's now on special leave. So according to you, what is your call then for the president to still act against the outgoing Minister of Police? Effectively, you say, forget special leave, you need to be fired, because it is within his discretionary powers to do that, right?
No, definitely, Ashraf. So the president has actually acknowledged and accepted that Senzo Mchunu is actually complicit in what, or maybe there's prima facie evidence against the minister in terms of what the Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi would have raised. So by the president's placing Senzo Mchunu on special leave, he actually acknowledges that no, there is something that needs to be looked into here. But now what the president does not understand is that if you go and look at Section 96(2), it then says that if a minister is conflicted, his personal interest and his government responsibilities are conflicted, that person warrants dismissal from cabinet. So this thing of the president not having the stamina to want to fire Senzo Mchunu, even though there might be some prima facie evidence against him, and even worse, Ashraf, there is evidence that the minister lied in parliament, saying that he didn't know this Brown Mukhosi. So and lying in parliament, deliberately misleading parliament is a huge violation. So that alone warrants a dismissal for Senzo Mchunu. So the special leave, we don't understand it. It's not legally allowed by the constitution, and the president must just fire him, and then he can duly appoint Prof. Kachala as the Minister of Police, and then we proceed with the governance of this country.
So you've taken your objection from simply voicing it in terms of a press release, which I think you did on Sunday evening, to actually now a legal challenge, right? So what is the nature of the legal challenge? What are you putting forward, and what do you want to happen next?
So in everything that I've communicated with you now, we are just seeking further clarity from the president to say that he must give us clarity in writing in terms of all these issues, because there is that uncertainty whether he's still going to appoint Prof. Kachala as a minister with that portfolio and then give him the acting roles and all of those things. So we've written him a comprehensive letter to say, give us in clarity all these issues, because we still reserve our legal opinion or our legal right to take this to court, because we also don't want to go to court and then only for him to come and say, no, I didn't mean to say this. This is what I actually intended to do. So we are giving him an opportunity to give us in writing everything that we are seeking as clarity, and then even to clarify this thing of why Senzo Mchunu is not dismissed, or what.
And if that is not forthcoming, assuming he does not provide clarity, then what?
No, so we've given him a deadline of the 21st. So if that is not received by the 21st, then we reserve our legal rights then to take this to court.
Okay. Interestingly enough, the MK party have gone a step further. They've used this example and many other examples, in fact, as reasons that the president should not serve as the president any longer. And they have outrightly called for his dismissal. What's the EFF position on that?
Yeah, well, we are not there yet, but obviously the MK, they are own organization who then have their own program of action. And I think if then they are going to go that route and put a motion of no confidence in Parliament, they'll have to engage us. We'll review our position at that time. But obviously, even for us, we're just trying to gather all the facts around us so that whenever we take a position, it's a well-informed position. It doesn't look like we're just purging the president for no reason, but we are also actually looking at our program in terms of what's the best way to approach this. If the vote of no confidence becomes an option for us, obviously internally and led by the leadership collective, will be given that guidance and we'll take it forward in that regard. But for now, we have not have an official position regarding the vote of no confidence.
Understandably. So very quickly, we get on to news time now. Lots of views around the Commission of Inquiry. I mean, the President first pronounced on it on Sunday. There's been to and fro, and there's been further explanations, not necessarily from him, but from other political analysts about why he has a point and he can't outrightly, pass judgment on a person and the entire what may seem as an unworkable system. What are your thoughts from the EFF now?
No, the commission is a delay tactic. It's Ramaphosa shielding responsibility from himself, not wanting to take responsibilities and not wanting to take action, and just giving responsibility to a commission and a judge and all of those things. No results are going to come out from that. We've got history of those things. We don't have appetite for it. Even the people of South Africa don't have appetite. It's just going to be a waste of money, waste of time, and nothing is going to be yielded from that. So we really don't support it and we don't want it.
Well, thank you for your time. For now, first things first, let's see if the President responds to your legal challenge at this point in time and offers an explanation in terms of the way out, in terms of how you see it and he sees it. Thank you for your time. Mazwe Blozeo, the EFF MP, effectively connected here on the National Pulse. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, President Cyril Ramaphosa says it is important to get to the bottom of claims made by KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, and this is why he has appointed a judicial commission of inquiry. City Power says businesses in and around Johannesburg owe it over 60 billion rand. The electricity entity has urged customers and business owners to come forward and make payment arrangements. And Deputy President Paul Mashatile has addressed the opening ceremony of the China International Supply Chain Expo in Beijing. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Centurion, slow moving on the link to the N1 North at Brakfontein Interchange. The M1 southbound in central Johannesburg, slow moving towards Crown Interchange, and Allendale Road eastbound in Kloekop has a crash reported at Mastiff Road. In KZN, South Coast Road is where truck congestion is reported in that Rosberg area, so expect delays. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound slow moving towards Bunga Avenue, the N1 outbound is slow moving towards Okavango Road exit, and Voortrekker Road eastbound slow moving through Maitland. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you. This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Raza, you have eyes on the T20 match, and it's not good news.
No, the Black Caps, I can't even pronounce their name, Ashraf. They just put the Proteas under pressure. And New Zealand, they definitely pulled out a Houdini, disappearing with 21 runs to spare. And this is the match taking place, T20 match, between the Proteas, who fell short in Harare this afternoon, as New Zealand sealed that 21-run victory in match 2 of the Zimbabwe Tri-Nation Series. Chasing 173, the Proteas bowled out for 152 in 18.2 overs. Lungi Ngidi, the standout with the ball, surpassing Dale Steyn to become the third highest wicket taker for South Africa in T20s. The Proteas, they next face the host Zimbabwe. That's on Sunday. Let's go to the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Gator McKenzie, saying there's been a lot of progress in the push for the introduction of video assistant referee in the country, and revealed there'll be more developments this week.
VAR's got different facets to it and different tasks. My task was to make money available. FIFA requires it to happen through SAFA. We are sitting with SAFA this week to now finalize the bids that are in, and then putting in the company that's won to do VAR. I've done my bit. SAFA's now doing their bit. So I've got no doubt that VAR will be with us.
More soccer. Kaizer Chiefs chairman and Premier Soccer League Executive Committee member Kaizer Motaung says there's a need to introduce stringent measures to regulate the buying of statuses in the league. He was responding to questions from the media after he received an honorary doctorate in commerce from the Wits University. Now, he did say that the PSL is a model, bar some isolated cases that most national football leagues on the continent can replicate.
But as far as I can proudly say, the PSL is on the right track at the moment. And we obviously cannot be special, a perfect organization. We'll always have challenges. Like you see now, some of the things that happen after the season when teams get relegated, there's legal challenges and fighting onwards and so forth. But I think it takes us to be able to ensure that we work together and understanding what is in the interest of the country. And once we understand that, I think we shall have really made a very good step forward.
That's Kaizer Chiefs chairman and Premier Soccer League Executive Committee member Kaizer Motaung on the National Pulse. And finally, athletics news. South African marathon record holder Elroy Galant has set his sights on a podium finish in the upcoming World Athletics Championships, scheduled for the 13th to the 21st of September, happening in Tokyo, Japan. Galant was the top South African finisher at last year's Olympic Games in Paris, where he placed 11th in the 42.2 kilometre race.
Yeah, no, actually the target when I was sitting last year with my management, I started last year with NN in the Netherlands, started working with them, and they told me from the beginning, you're a gold level athlete now because of the Olympics, so we're going for a medal at the World Championships. And I like the way in terms of how they make me to think in a way, because they are a high-performance management group, and they told me from start, we're going for medal. You know, most of the East Africans, they're not running World Championships, or if they run, they would sometimes jump out because of major marathons. And considering my position at the Olympics, they said, let's aim for a top 3 at World Championships. So that's the aim from last year already.
And that's your sport. We'll be back on track on the National Pulse, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Thank you, Zai. Well, I mean, one defeat, maybe the pulses are racing. I think just a quick one. So Kaizer Motaung spoke about, the issues of I got it right, around clubs changing and the regulations there, right? Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
You've been following that story? I mean, any thoughts you have on that?
Not really. Ashraf, it sounds to be a bit of a muddle at the moment, because you'd expect it to be at least black and white, but it isn't. I mean, we even had our minister buying a national football team. So, and I know we did say he was very transparent about it, and but is it best practice? That's the thing. Are we following best practice? Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not so much about the minister. I think that the point is that, listen, great that there's a club in Bloemfontein. It may not have the name Bloem Celtic, but for all intents and purposes, it is. They have the same green and white. That's one thing. But the more important one is there are too many clubs that are willy-nilly being sold, maybe for good reason, but the heritage and the legacy of the entire league is being destroyed. And that, from a long-term point of view, is not good. I think someone said the other day, which I tend to agree to say, you could have a situation in a few years' time where the only clubs you can remember, their names, would be Kaizer Chiefs, Orlando Pirates, Mamelodi Sundowns, because all the others would chop and change and sell the moment they lose out, and clubs that get relegated would just buy another club and just get into the Premiership, which is exactly what's happened right now.
It's called having money or not having money.
But it's just not football.
No, of course, it's a business now. We talk about the business of sport on the show. This is a case. This is a textbook case of that.
Okay.
But anyway, there's plenty of clubs sniffing around, I can tell you.
But is that business good business or bad? I think it's bad. But anyway.
It appeals to the lotto-rich buyers, unfortunately.
Okay, got that. Great branding when you own a football club. Someone said the other day, I'd love to own a football club or a sports entity one day. Can you just imagine? Not quite there yet, but who knows? More sports is in an hour's time, yeah?
SAFM.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195, and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
This July, journey beyond the horizon with Chasing the Sun. 5 mesmerizing episodes every Sunday at 7:30 on SABC2 from 13 July to 10 August. Feel the thrill of the adventure, the power of discovery, and stories that light up the skies. Missed an episode? No worries. Stream anytime, anywhere on SABC Plus. No subscription required. Chasing the Sun. Your Sunday nights just got brighter. Tune in to SABC2, Sundays at 7:30 or watch on SABC Plus on demand.
For the love of the game.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 450 gram Bokoma Wheat Bix original only for 27.99 and save 9 Rand. Or 1 liter liquid fruit for just 26.99, save 11 Rand. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million Rand in instant cash. Price is valid until 21 July 2025. While stocks last, T's and C's apply.
Right, so we're talking about victory with sports. Just keep an eye on this one. The Springbok team that won the Rugby World Cup in 2019. To what degree have you followed that magical story from the heartache of a year before that to absolute victory for the World Cup? Now, that story is called Chasing the Sun, and you can follow it. It's a 5-part series that started last week. So catch it this Sunday and then every other Sunday for the next, 4 weeks running on SABC2, 7:30 p.m. every Sunday. And by the way, you can also stream it if you just download the SABC Plus app, right? So stream it anytime, anywhere, no subscription needed. Don't miss Chasing the Sun. Sundays, 7:30 p.m. on SABC2. Be there when history shines.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Let's get to those numbers with Paswane Mpatlele, who's a senior accounts manager at Markway Fund Managers. You've got news, local and global as always, but a significant news regarding Richmond, right?
Yeah, Chef, afternoon and to all your listeners. Richmond, they gave us the start of the year Q1 performance. The guys these are the luxury group guys, and they reflected on a good start, reflecting the resilience embedded in their consumer structures. Despite global volatilities, they continue to support the business. Global sales were up 6%. The guys are benefiting from a general positive momentum on sales in all their regions and benefiting from the high margin, more especially the jewelry business that was up 11%. But management would have to now focus more on those watch sales that have been trading lower. But overall, it's a good performance from the guys, and they still sit on a good cash balance of 7.4 billion euros, and the stock was up over 1%. Onto the market developments, Ashraf, where volatility risk keeps narrowing on supportive good development news. Locally, we saw the likes of the Bank Server Economic Transaction Index that tracks the real value of payment activities, increasing for a second month in June, signaling an early signs of recovery in South African economic activities when you compare to see how we did in Q1. And further support was the retail sales that remained positive, up 4.2%, and consumers spent a lot on the likes of clothing, footwear, and general dealers. On the global focus, it remains inflation being the key story to move markets. The numbers are signaling that, when you exclude the likes of the US, G20 countries are expected to increase in inflation levels. We see the likes of the UK, it had indicated in the inflation report that it's the highest levels they've seen in 2024, while when you look at the likes of the US, PPI is stagnated, reflecting that it is easing. And this has signaled to the market that, wait, we're going to have to put the dollar and yields to not break out as they traded them lower, allowing equities to get some breathing room. We see the likes of US indexes are just up 0.1 across the board. When you switch it on to the Europe markets, the FTSE and the DAX is up 0.3. Well, locally, JSE here, we are mixed fold. We are flat. We see the likes of our resource sector down 1.6%, while financials are up 0.7 and industrials up 0.2. And when you think of the likes of the trade wars and geopolitical tensions that continue to take effect, with the likes of Israel still attacking the likes of Syria, there is a concern for investors, and we see a divergence in performance of commodities. We see the likes of oil is down 1%. It's around $68 a barrel, while gold is sitting out flat at $3,322 an ounce. And when we close it off with the currencies, we are slightly weaker. Rand against the dollar is at 17.93, but still below that 18. Rand against the euro 20.74, and rand against the pound 23.98.
Right, perfect. Thanks for that. And as always, we're going to connect with you tomorrow. But let me remind you as well, 6 to 7 this evening, Jimmy Moyaha in the hot seat hosting the SAFM Market Update. Do not miss that.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
I certainly am aware that we need to hear from you because you're on the pulse, and as soon as we can get a chance, we will certainly put you on the air. But in the meantime, let's reflect on the goings-on in Parliament. Now, the Portfolio Committee on Police and Justice had a joint meeting today in Parliament to deliberate on and to outline how to handle probes into the significant allegations made by the KZN Police Commissioner, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. So what we've done, we've looked at some key points that were made that we think you need to hear. Let's start with this. The Portfolio Committee on Justice and Constitution Development Chairperson is Ola Ngola, and that chairperson then talks about what the committee has been asked or tasked to do. So basically setting down the agenda.
We all convict that corruption is a serious matter that warrants our attention as Parliament. What we are instructed to do is to advise the National Assembly on what form should it take to dig deeper to the issues that would have been raised. So it's a matter of what form should Parliament take in terms of attending to the matter at hand, which has caused waves in the country. So the matter even of the role, which laws are applicable, we have said it's correct that we would have asked that what laws are applicable to, or legal prescripts that are applicable to the format of how we are going to proceed with the matter. And the presentation itself, we have said it must answer that question. So it has been done through Rule 167 of the National Assembly rules. But both our opening remarks will cover some of those aspects, including the presentation itself will cover in deep detail the legal prescripts that apply to the sitting that we are sitting, and also the legal prescripts that apply to whatever would have been raised by General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi in his press briefing. So that matter is a matter that will be thoroughly clarified.
And there's more. Also, comment was made about some of the specific issues raised by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi.
We take a serious concern to what would have been raised by General Mkhwanazi because our view is simple that it has got a direct impact in the safety of the South African people. And if that's the conviction that we all have, then it means therefore Parliament must act decisively in trying to circumvent the situation that we are in for the best interest of the people of South Africa. Because the problem that may be an unintended consequence may be that we may disregard this matter, the people of South Africa lose confidence into the police service, and when they do, take the law into their hands, and South Africa becomes a lawless country.
And there's more now. The Constitutional Legal Services Officers Andile Tetsana says allegations against the outgoing police minister, ordered the disbandment of the Political Killings Task Team, in fact making a position about whether that would need a formal inquiry.
You will agree with me, Chairperson, that there are issues which General Mkhwanazi has raised, which of course in our opinion as legal services do not require a formal inquiry in order for those issues to be addressed. One of which, Chairperson, is the issue of the status of the Political Killings Task Team. You will recall, Chairperson, that Honorable Mkhwanazi told the nation that there was a letter from Minister Mchunu, which of course had directives about closing the task team itself. But of course, General Mkhwanazi told us that given the fact that that instruction did not come from the National Commissioner, the work of that commission is still continuing. We also know, Chairperson, that there's about 121 case dockets that were allegedly taken away from this Political Killings Task Team to Mr. Sibia's office by the minister. We are told that 5 of these dockets had instructions to arrest the perpetrators. All I'm trying to demonstrate, Chairperson, is that for this information, for Parliament to ask what is the status of these 121 dockets, I don't think this requires a formal inquiry, Chairperson.
Okay, doesn't need a formal inquiry. And there's more. Zingiza Zinani then effectively talks about the same things and reflecting on the allegations made by Mkhwanazi.
Provide context of the issues that legal services has been requested to attend to. First, there was a request for a legal opinion that came before the instruction from the Speaker for the 2 or 3 committees to deal with the matter. The request that came from the Portfolio Committee on Police was for legal services to advise whether the sub judice rule finds application and whether our committee can proceed to deliberate without necessarily interfering in confidential police matters. So the issue was whether or not, in light of the sub judice rule, the Portfolio Committee on Police can deliberate on the matters that were raised by in the Mkhwanazi media briefing. So that was the scope of the initial legal opinion. And we are of the view that the issue has already been overtaken by events, but in any event, our legal input on the matter was that as much as there is the National Assembly Rule 89, that
if you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Hi, my name is Andile Dlamini, goalkeeper of Mamelodi Sundowns and Banyana Banyana. If I received 10 million to stop being a goalkeeper and become a boxer, no, I don't think I would do it. Flying the flag high is something that I carry in my heart. What do I like about SABC Sport? It caters for all, rich and poor.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Temba, how do I check if I've been auto-assessed by SARS?
No need to stress at all. Go to the SARS online query system dashboard, SOX. It only takes a few minutes.
Really? Where do I find it?
Go to the SARS website and then look for the SOX dashboard icon. Make tax matters your priority number 1. Go to sars.gov.za and say goodbye to queues. SARS, at your service.
SAFM, in collaboration with the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz, brings you the Jazz for Young People concert happening at the National School of the Arts on the 26th of July 2025. Tune in to Seasons and the Soundtrack of Your Life, broadcasting live. This unique event is a powerful celebration of youth, creativity, and community spirit. Bring the whole family to enjoy a wonderful day of world-class jazz from young musicians, curated by Zoe Mudicha, featuring National School of the Arts Band, Willow Crescent Magnet School of Music Band, Biko's Manor, and many others. Have fun while doing good. Tickets are available at Quicket for just 80 Rand and 50 Rand for kids under 12. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
And you know what? As I stream live, you join me on this journey, all of us connected with the umbilical cord of whatever that pulse is of the nation. So thanks for joining us. Let's get to Colombia now. It's something I touched on earlier on. There's this grouping called the Hague Group Emergency Conference. And you may wonder, what does the Hague Group do in Colombia? Ultimately, it's linked to the Middle East, Israel, Palestine, or Israel and Gaza within Palestine, and some significant plans being made by, I think, over 30 countries. Philemon Wise Emmanuel is with me, the Minister of Justice and Labour Relations in Namibia. Minister Emmanuel, appreciate your time here on the National Pulse.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you considering having me.
Thank you. Well, of course, I would take it. It's sort of early morning in Bogota. To fill us in on this development around the Hague Group Emergency Conference.
Sorry, your line is a little bit cutting.
I was saying, maybe,
I
was saying, tell us, what is the Hague Group Emergency Conference? This coming together of countries. What has been agreed? What's the plan next?
As you would know, or as it would be a common cause to the listeners, the Hague Group was found in January 2025 by a number of countries, 8 to be specific, of which Namibia and South Africa are among those 8 countries. And the primary purpose of why this specific group was found is primarily to look at the situations that is happening in Gaza, specifically affecting the entire Middle East, or Palestine to be specific. The country has then been, galvanizing for diplomatic pressure to be mounted on Israel so that Israel can end its unlawful occupations of Palestine. So that is primarily the reasons why this group was found.
Okay, so what is different from resolutions taken at the United Nations, some resolutions turned down by the Security Council, the position of South Africa leading the challenge against Israel to the ICJ or the ICC? What is different about this grouping?
Well, as you have put it, that the situations of the conflict between Israel or Palestinians and Israel is one that concerns the entire global village. Now, different countries and specifically members of the United Nations are gatherings in different corners wherever they find themselves, so that they mount pressure on Israel to withdraw from the Palestinian territory. Since there has been a number of groups that have been formed, Hague is just one of them. There is a Madrid group also that is equally fulfilling the same purpose or aiming at achieving the same objective. So the reason for the for the emergency ministerial meeting that is currently underway in Colombia is simply because country have marched, country have petitioned, country have spoken against Israel unlawful occupation of Palestine. but atrocities and crimes against the humanity continue unabated. And the purpose for this specific conference, as one would ask, is primarily aiming at consolidating the collective diplomatic pressure. So that would or should rather be viewed as an expansion of the spirit of solidarity found and the moral conviction established by the Hague Group in January 2025 in response to the Israel continued unlawful occupations of the Palestinian
How
territory.
does this? So I would take it. I mean, the conference, when it ends, there's always resolutions or action plans. What's the next step now?
The conference commenced yesterday, and it's still underway, as I have indicated. And the expectation is that by the end of the conference, there will be, collective diplomatic actions that will be agreed upon by the participating member state. So the conference is also then expected to concretize, the legal measures in pursuit of a paradigm shift from a mere symbolic condemnation of what is happening in Gaza toward a practical implementation of state obligation under the international law, addressing specifically the material enabler for genocides and war crime. So the conference is equally expected to borrow from the account of historical precedents of international solidarity in terms of how, global solidarity movement in the past have managed to dismantle, oppressions, unlawful occupations of their given given territories, and apartheid systems for which when you speak to any South African and any Namibian, they will tell you clearly what was the impact of that apartheid system and how they went about dismantling them.
Well, thank you for your time. I'm pretty sure, based upon the conclusion of the conference, it's an issue we'll bound to revisit sometime tomorrow. Philemon Wise Emmanuel, the Minister of Justice and Labour Relations in Namibia, speaking to us from Bogota, Colombia, as part of the Hague Group Emergency Conference, looking at new ways to apply pressure on Israel in that battle, that war against the people of Palestine. Let's get the news now. Just gone 1 minute past 5 years, Greg.
Thank you, Ashraf. Ramaphosa defends probe into Mkhwanazi claims and businesses owe city power billions. Good day to you. President Cyril Ramaphosa says it's important to get to the bottom of claims made by the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Police Commissioner, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, and this is why he's appointed a commission of inquiry. Mkhwanazi alleges that the police minister is affiliated to persons linked to criminal activities and that top police officials are involved in criminal activities. The police minister, Senzo Mchunu, has been placed on a leave of absence. Several political parties have criticised the establishment of the commission. Ramaphosa was speaking during the debate on the budget of the presidency in Parliament.
Now, these allegations are serious. They are also untested. It is therefore necessary that we establish the facts through an independent, credible, and thorough process so that we can ensure that there is accountability as well as safeguard public confidence in the police service. It is therefore strange that some people have voiced strong opposition to the establishment of this inquiry. Some have even said that I should take immediate punitive steps against Mr. Senzo Mchunu on the basis of untested allegations.
Meanwhile, the MK party's repeated its calls for President Ramaphosa to step down, accusing him of incompetence and failure to act boldly on issues affecting the country. The party's also given him an ultimatum to withdraw his recent announcement of a commission of inquiry, as well as the placement of the police minister on special leave. Nhlamula Ntlela is the MK party spokesperson.
This president is totally dislodged from the pulse of the nation. If you listen to the anticlimax of a speech that he gave, sending a minister on special leave as opposed to firing him and demonstrating that he is a leader who is going to take bold decisions and will not allow criminality, whether it be in cabinet, parliament, or in this country. And we're saying that this president, not only that, but let's not forget that this is a president who himself is implicated and was part of a cover-up in terms of what happened in Phala Phala. But what's interesting is also the fact that the reason he's putting this minister on special leave as opposed to firing him is because we know that the same minister that has classified the Phala Phala report that implicates the president himself.
City Power says businesses in and around Johannesburg owe it more than 60 billion rand. City Power spokesperson Isaac Mangena says they embarked on a revenue collection drive in Braamfontein in Johannesburg today and disconnected defaulting businesses and residential complexes.
As the city, we are sitting at about 64 billion rand that is basically owed across the city of Johannesburg. And in this area alone, City Power is being owed about 3 million rand. This is from the 10 billion that we are owed across the city from us. It is a real worrying phenomenon because the expectation is that the businesses would have profit that they are making, and they should be able to pay for the services that they are using.
The R71 road outside Zanin in Limpopo has been reopened to traffic after gas cylinders being carried on a truck exploded. The vehicle went out of control and veered off the road. The explosion also caused a runaway felt fire. The driver escaped with only minor injuries. The Deputy President, Paul Mashatile, has addressed the opening ceremony of the China International Supply Chain Expo in Beijing. Mashatile is on a working visit to China. Bonola Maribe has more.
Deputy President Paul Mashatile says that South Africa is committed to strengthening economic ties with China. This is a result of the two nations having a mutual desire to diversify and expand trade to create a solid supply chain. In his opening remarks, Mashatile says that Pretoria will have the chance to diversify exports, whereas Beijing will have the opportunity to further its economic partnerships with the African continent. He further reiterated the importance of strengthening the two countries' relationship to ensure that the outcomes of South Africa's G20 presidency reflect the shared aspirations of the Global South. Bonola Maribe, SABC News.
The top story, President Ramaphosa says it's important to get to the bottom of claims made by the KZN Police Commissioner, and this is why he's appointed a commission of inquiry. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Huss.
Welcome to SFM Sport, and we'll start with the Proteas. Not a good time for them out in Harare. The Kiwis striking back despite a promising start. They had Pretorius and Brevis, but a collapse followed and they were out by 21 runs. And we'll also bring you insights with our Cash and Sport founder, Nkobile Ndlovu, exploring the business of sport, coming up at around 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Germiston, queuing towards Geldenhuys interchange. The N3 northbound in Bedfordview, queuing on the ramp to the N12 east at Giluli's interchange. And the N1 northbound in Midrand has a felt fire reported with smoke affecting visibility at New Road. In KZN, the N3 eastbound in Key Ridge has a stationary truck off to Cliffdale, Chris Harney Road northbound queuing at Sea Cow Lake Road, and on the M7, truck congestion reported at South Coast Road, so expect delays. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound slow moving towards Bunga Avenue, Van Riebeeck Road in Kuilsrivier where a crash is reported at Annandale Road, and on Swartklip Road in Khayelitsha, a crash reported at Spine Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you. SAFM, in partnership with SABC CSI and the Butongo Rhino and Lion Nature Reserve, will be providing a game drive experience for the Orlando Children's Home for our Nelson Mandela Day initiative. Tune in to the Full Circle with Bertha Chiruma on the 18th of July 2025, 1 to 3 p.m. Coming to you live from the Butongo Rhino and Lion Nature Reserve as we commemorate Nelson Mandela Day. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
SABC News turns 75 on July the 17th, 2025.
Since the dawn of democracy, SABC News has grown into your trusted source for news and current affairs, shaping our nation and the world for the past 75 years.
From July 12th to the 17th, SAFM Current Affairs presents exclusive interviews with iconic presenters, producers, and news leaders.
We're exploring the legacy of SABC News, highlighting the voices that have defined our story.
Join SAFM for a week of compelling reports and unforgettable moments.
SABC News at 75.
Independent and impartial. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
I see lots of people commenting about the MK party, their position, the EFF, Zuma, Lindiwe Sulu as well, and what is called Palestine Superman. Maybe I think it relates to a movie. There's been lots of conversation about that. We'll cover all of that when I get to your calls, because you're on the pulse and I certainly need to feel it as soon as we can, right? We'll also get another opinion, a legal opinion regarding the latest challenges by the MK party as well as the EFF. That comes up in a few minutes' time. But let's talk about something that was covered yesterday, but then was reminded by a caller. So we listen to you. We try as much as we can. So a listener called in just before we ended the show about that story of a 72-year-old man who was abducted and then taken to an initiation school in Limpopo. So, SABC News covered that story, and there's been developments around it. Now, CONTRALESA, which is the Congress of Tradition Leaders of South Africa, well, they're now urging the public to refrain from forcibly taking people to initiation schools. Let's find out more about it with the president of CONTRALESA, that's Khoshi Matupa Mokoena. I appreciate your time, Khoshi. Thanks for connecting to us on the National Pulse.
Actually, thank you very much for having me, Leadership. Thank you. Greetings to our listeners of SFM.
Thank you. First of all, I mean, when people heard that story, there was contrasting opinions from what is right culturally to people being, aghast by what they heard to people being like, this is crazy, and almost others talking about amusement, right? So I'm looking at a whole spectrum of emotions that people responded to. How did you respond? How do you respond when you heard about this story of the 72-year-old man?
Ashraf, my leader, may I ask for indulgence so that as CONTRALESA, let me first say before I can respond to what you are raising, a very critical issue. I want to say as CONTRALESA, we are so disappointed that the Police and Justice Committee this morning outsourced their functions and handed it over to the so-called ad hoc committee. Now, it is clear that some members went there with a mandate from the organizations. Clearly, it means those organizations don't trust those members who are serving in those two committees. Hence, they resorted to the ad hoc committee. So disappointing, I thought maybe let's talk about it before. Let me comment on this to first. CONTRALESA, we are so disappointed because you cannot, because this thing, it's clear that it means organizations are going to parachute members from other committees to come to the ad hoc committee instead of those members doing what is expected of them. But anyway, the public are watching Ashraf, and they're going to respond there one day. But back to the issue, Ashraf, I must say, CONTRALESA, we are so embarrassed and disappointed that we are preaching this gospel to everybody to say, initiation practice, it's done by people who are practicing it, by people who are willing to go there, by people who are being taken there by their parents. There is no way you can force someone to go to this practice without his or her consent. Therefore, hence as CONTRALESA, we are calling for the law enforcement agencies to land very heavily on people who forcefully took this old man to the initiation school, Ashraf.
Why do you think, and it's almost difficult to ask you this, but why do you think that they would go to that extent, thinking that it's okay to do so at any age, but in this case, particularly so with a 72-year-old?
I thought there might be other reasons. There are people, for example, who might heard talking badly about this practice. And people used to say, no, because you're talking this bad about this practice, let's take you there so that you feel, so that you know exactly what you're talking about. Some, I want to suspect it's just a question of saying, let's add numbers at our school so that we can get more cash. Something that is really unfortunate. But being as it may, for whatever reason, let's assume the first example that I gave. This man was heard talking bad about the initiation or lambasting it or ridiculing it. You can only report this person to the powers that be, so that if he had to be called to order, let it be so. But you cannot force someone to go there. Hence, as Contralesa, we're not going to have sympathy or mercy to anyone who is facing charges based on what they did. It is uncalled for, it is abhorrent, it is unacceptable. Want to call upon all initiation school owners, all those principals, to say, if you are encouraging that, will motivate to the person who gave you a permit to ban this person for life so that he must not continue running initiation school in their entire life. Because this is rubbishing full practice, Ashraf, and we're so embarrassed.
Would it be a case of, I mean, it's interesting you mentioned, I mean, you'd be embarrassed about it on more than one occasion. I can understand that because there's an issue of tradition and how far does tradition and culture go within the rights of another person, right? So one thing is, maybe that person or the initiation school may be, shut down or suspended. But what about the law in this issue?
The law is clear, Ashraf, to say, in terms of the legislation that has been passed, the national legislation, meaning provincial legislations, it restricts or it prohibits people to be taken to the school without their consent. It is even worse now because even if you are going there willingly, the Act dictates that let's just check with the parents as to whether they are agreeing that you continue with the practice. It is worse when you take someone there. Forceful, if you are taken there forcefully without your this thing, the law says those people must be punished severely. Hence, as Contralesa, we are also calling for harsher actions to those people who took that old man who went there. Because there are people, Ashraf, who are not practicing this culture. We can't force them. It's like when there are those who are going to ZCC, going to Roman Church, and they are going there willingly. You can't force people to say, no, come to my church because whatever reason. Therefore, we are saying, not in our name. Don't do it.
So, in this case, we're talking of a 72-year-old, which also, I would think, evokes even greater emotion around it. To say, can you just imagine this? But I would think, and your point about ZCC and other churches or even other people of different religious persuasions, right, is important, right? That people ultimately can choose their association based upon their own choices. So there could well be other people who may not be 72 years old, but much, much younger, who've been, abducted and then forced to engage in a type of initiation or circumcision completely against their will, right? What has happened to them in terms of the schools? Meaning, has there been, you talk about the law, but has it in practice been effected?
A very good question, a very educated question, Ashraf. I just hope listeners were going to take to exactly what you are saying. There are some of the principals of our initiation schools who will hire some boys and put them at some streets to say, if you bring one boy, there's a prize for it. And we're saying that it's unacceptable. And as I said earlier on, that the law prohibits that kind of practice. It is there in our legislation, as I have to say, even if you want to assist this person to say, because in your family all of them have gone to this school, let me take you there, it is not allowed. A person must do that willingly. And we are calling upon even all traditional leaders to say, let's guard against people doing that, and let's make sure those people are called to book. It's just a pity, Ashraf, because this legislation that is there now had usurped powers from traditional leaders. If it was not taken away, now this practice is run by politicians. Politicians have created some structures who are running our schools now. Traditional leaders who are now spectators. It's simply because we love this culture. We're not folding our hands and saying, because now this practice has been taken by politicians, let's forget about it. We are there. We're there. All you can do as a traditional leader, when something is happening, you can only report to the police or the powers that be. Because politicians, parliament, have created some structures that must run our initiation schools. Those structures don't have teeth, they can't bite, hence we're in this mess, Ashraf. Hence we propose to the minister to say, can you bring amendments so that we do what we used to do to protect lives at our schools. This one size fits all in terms of this legislation is not assisting us.
Okay.
And maybe that many provinces are supporting contra lesser when we call for the amendment to this legislation.
And at this point in time, I mean, besides the provinces, in terms of that amendment call, any update on that in terms of, are you getting a sense of a positive response?
I'm happy to say, yesterday, after we were meeting on Sunday with the minister, where contra lesser raised sharply that let's bring amendments. I'm happy to say the minister is now calling for comment from all of us to try and improve this legislation. All of us contra lesser, it's just even mild to say let's bring amendments. This thing have to be repealed because it is clear that this legislation was crafted by a consultant, not the traditional leaders, not those who are practicing this culture. Therefore, there are so many loopholes in terms of age, in terms of where it must do, in terms of how it must be done, and so on. Can you imagine, Ashraf, if there is this culture that is done by other ethnic groups in the country, and I'm roped in to go and be part of that structure, to monitor a culture that I don't even know how it is practiced. You know that it has failed before it could even start. Parliament must wake up and allow some amendment, or we repeal this thing, we bring a legislation that will have teeth that will bite.
Okay.
Let's take powers back to our kings, queens, and traditional leaders to run the school, not politicians.
Right, that's where we can leave it. Parliament must wake up. Let's take power back from the politicians. Now, how does that resonate with the rest of the people of South Africa? Thank you for your time, Hoshi Matupa Makwena, Contra Lesser President. Well, there you are. What an important issue that should get your pulses racing, because I must accept that many people listening are culturally connected to that conversation. Let's hear it from you on the National Pulse.
Champions need motivation above and beyond winning. South Africa, show your love and support for the WAFCON defending champions by Yana. Witness the CAF Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024 from 5 to 26 July 2025 on SABC Plus, S3, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Join us for this year's fundraiser, Jazz for Young People concert at the National School of the Arts on the 26th of July. This unique event, perfect for families, is a powerful celebration of youth, creativity, and community spirit. So bring the whole family to enjoy a wonderful day of world-class jazz curated by Zoe Mudicha, featuring the Parktown Girls Band, Tshwane School of Music, The Real DJ Zandi, Kutlotaro Jazz Band, and many others. Tickets are just 80 Rand and 50 Rand for kids under 12 via Quicket. Jazz for Young People is proudly brought to you by Standard Bank Joy of Jazz.
Chasing the Sun is a 5-part South African sport documentary series. An inspiring story of the 4-time World Rugby Champions, the Springboks. The journey of winning the Rugby World Cup, a behind-the-scenes look of how the green and gold team overcame adversity, divisions, and doubt to become world champs. Be there when history shines. Tune into SABC2 on Sundays at 7:30 p.m. from 13 July to 10 August. Also available anytime, anywhere on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, as always, welcome your comments. Now, from around 5:45 onwards up to the top of the hour, we will take your calls, we will take your WhatsApp comments, text or voice note. Keep them to 30 seconds. We'll certainly take your tweets. You can do right away, in fact, even now. And then just hashtag the National Pulse, tag SFM Radio and myself. And let me remind you, any of the conversations that we've already had and you've heard, but you want to listen again and maybe share it with your friends or your chummies, well, you can certainly do so. Go to sfm.co.za. On the one hand, on our website, and you'll find it under the National Pulse on the podcast, but also we tweet it out, so you can just check it out. Or you can, in fact, you just Google it. You will definitely find it. Okay, let's talk about another issue that we touched on before. We had the EFF, in fact, we had the MK party first, and then followed by the EFF, who have effectively instituted maybe the first salvo in terms of a potential legal charge against the president, and very much a lot of that centers around what's happened around the now outgoing minister Senzo Mkhunu and what happens next in terms of the appointments he made. So let's try and understand from a pure legal perspective. Impumelelo Bon Nyoka, who's a legal analyst from Gqeberha. Appreciate your time as always on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. Now, of course, we've spoken to analysts and political parties in the last couple of days, and a lot of it is mixed with emotion. We thought, let's just get it from a pure legal perspective, right? Once the president found that there were allegations made against his own minister of police, and then the broader ministry and maybe others, what? In terms of his actions, what did he do that you think may be legally sound or not?
Yeah, you remember when the Israelites were trapped before the Red Sea and Moses was leading them. They were shouting, was it not better to die in Pharaoh's place? And then God said, what is in your hand? He said, it's a rod. He said, extend it over the Red Sea. The rod, as far as the president is concerned, is in his hand. He should have fired Senzo Mkhunu and replace him with Mr. Kachalia. Easy. Or fired the Minister of Higher Education and put Mr. Kachalia there and then take him to the Minister of Police. The argument by the EFF is very sound. That Section 91(3) does not allow for the appointment of two ministers from outside as acting. The Constitution is clear in Section 83. It says the President acts, his powers are derived from the Constitution and the law. He has no discretion to put someone from outside as an acting minister when there are already two deputy ministers of police. Why not appoint one of them as acting minister or one of them as a full minister? End of story.
Okay,
What is he avoiding? What is he avoiding doing so? Because as we speak now, Mr. Mkhunu is still a minister of police that is on leave. So you cannot appoint someone from outside as a minister or even as an acting minister when the current minister is still there but on leave.
All right. So, one can debate his reasons, and some are suggesting he's maybe partisan to Mkhunu. That's another conversation which you don't need to answer. The more important one is he's done what he's done. There's a particular legal challenge that's come from the EFF, as you've just mentioned, right? And maybe others have commented as well. What's then likely to happen next?
Okay, let me answer the second part of the special leave. Yes, there is no clear provision for a special leave, but the president has exercised what is called a constitutional convention since 2020. Remember Stella Ndabeni, who broke the COVID-19 regulation. She was placed by the president for special leave, as well as William Pisa for digital vibe. And this one, Bapisa Ngakula, asked to be placed on special leave. This constitutional convention is something that came from the 14th century through the British tradition of the opening of parliament. We open parliament with all the ceremonies, 21 gun salute. It's not provided for in the constitution, but it came because of what is called a practice, a constitutional convention that was started in 1910 when the Union of South Africa started, throughout to 1961, and now we inherited it. So the president is creating a constitutional convention with this special leave, even though it's not specifically provided.
So just help us understand that when we say constitutional convention. I mean, what would be the definition of a constitutional convention?
Yes, okay. It's an unwritten rule that morphs into a practice that becomes accepted as if it's an act of parliament, but it's accepted as such. That's what I'm saying. So let's say the president calls a family meeting regularly, and the next president does so. We'll reasonably expect to be called for family meetings when there are big occasions. We're creating our own constitutional convention, something that is not written to the constitution, but that we expect as a practice. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up. Right, continue, yeah?
Yes. So although the Constitution doesn't say anything about the powers of the president to appoint someone from outside in an acting capacity, the president is constrained to observe the Constitution. The answer to that inexplicitity is found in Section 98, which says if there's a minister that is absent or is unable to perform their duties, the president can assign the functions and powers of another minister to that minister. So it means there is a cover for that. He cannot go outside that and appoint someone as an acting minister when in front of him, Section 98 empowers him to take one cabinet minister and appointing him or her as an acting minister.
Okay, I hear that. All right, so very quickly, we're on to news very quickly, right, therefore. So what has happened has happened. What can happen next? What should happen next?
If the president does not comply with, does not reply satisfactorily, then the EFF is going to apply to the court on the basis of the president having acted unconstitutionally and irrationally. There are two deputy ministers, you skip them. You don't invoke the powers that we have in front of you. And I can guarantee you that action is going to succeed.
Okay, and then, without us suggesting it, his only way out of that is effectively to then X the outgoing minister. That will solve the problem.
Yes, he must act as he was supposed to act, not spinelessly. He must act courageously. Either fire Mr. Mkhunu, not for these recent remarks, for having lied.
Okay, and as you said, having lied, we've sort of lost our connection. Okay, let's leave it at that anyway. I think the point is well made. Impumelelo Bon Nyoka, who's a legal analyst from Gqeberha, right? Okay, there we are. You can comment on that too. I think it's very, very clear what he believes. He says the EFF will succeed on that legal challenge. Yeah, you are connected to the National Pulse. No question about that. Here's Greg House.
In the headlines, Eswatini's government's confirmed that it's holding 5 third-country nationals deported from the US in isolated prison units under a deal with President Donald Trump's administration. Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Transport has welcomed the dissolution of the board of the Road Accident Fund, and President Ramaphosa says it's important to get to the bottom of claims made by the KZN Police Commissioner, and that's why he's appointed a commission of inquiry. There's a full update at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in Weltevreden Park has a stationary truck reported before 14th Avenue. The N12 westbound queuing towards the N1 Diepkloof interchange, and the M1 northbound in Woodmead queuing towards Bekloo interchange. And Garsfontein Road in Pretoria has a crash reported at Solomon Mhlangu Drive. In KZN, Chris Hani Road northbound queuing at Seacow Lake Road. The R102 southbound is slow moving towards the M25 Kumashu Highway, and the M7 has truck congestion reported at South Coast Road. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, Jan van Riebeeck Drive southbound in Parow queuing towards Francis van Zyl Drive, and Baden-Powell Drive eastbound slow moving between Coastal Park and Strandfontein Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Stay tuned to SAFM. Coming up, this is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Right, Si, you got business of sport coming up in a moment, but let's talk about cricket first.
Yeah, Proteas falling short against New Zealand in Harare. They stumbled to a 21-run defeat in their second match of the Zimbabwe Tri-Series, chasing 174. South Africa were bowled out for 152 in just 18.2 overs. Now let's go to this story. Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Gator McKenzie, says there's a lot of progress in the push for the introduction of video assistant referee in the country, revealing that there will be more developments coming up.
VAR has got different facets to it and different tasks. My task was to make money available. FIFA requires it to happen through SAFA. We are sitting with SAFA this week to now finalize the bids that are in and then putting in the company that's won to do VAR. I've done my bid. SAFA is now doing their bid. So I've got no doubt that VAR will be with us.
Let's go to athletics, where South Africa's marathon record holder Elroy Galant has set his sights on a podium finish at the upcoming World Athletics Championship scheduled for September in Tokyo, Japan.
Yeah, no, actually the target when I was sitting last year with my management, I started last year with NN in the Netherlands, started working with them, and they told me from the beginning, you're a gold level athlete now because of the Olympics, so we're going for a medal at the World Championships. And I like the way in terms of how they make me to think in a way, because they are a high-performance management group, and they told me from start, we're going for medal. You know, most of the East Africans, they're not running World Championships, or if they run, they would sometimes jump out because of major marathons. And considering my position at the Olympics, they said, let's aim for a top 3 at World Championships. So that's the aim from last year already.
Let's go to South Africa, who've always punched above their weight in sport. We now have got Sports Minister Gator McKenzie saying South Africa must dream even bigger. He's vouching for hosting F1, bringing VAR to local football, and even playing a part in resuscitating Bloem Celtic. The real question is, who's footing the bill? And while the pit lane looks all glossy, shiny, and all that stuff that comes with having an event like the F1 here on South African soil, we're also looking at grassroots, which might be just stuck in the first gear. So we shift now to our very special guest, Ngobile Ndlovu, founder of Cash and Sport. Welcome, Ngobile.
Zai, good afternoon.
Oh, big one for you. Hosting an F1 Grand Prix sounds very, very glamorous. But in practical rands and cents, what are we looking at?
We're looking at hosting fees of between $20 and $50 million. So you're looking at between 300 and 400 million rand minimum per year as part of those hosting fees. And usually it runs up to about 4 to 5 years. So you're looking at least over R1 billion at least in terms of initial outlay, which is a lot of money.
So are we really building a legacy, or are we just burning rubber on, let's call it loosely, a vanity project?
Well, it's one half dozen of the other. We've had Formula One in South Africa before, but it was privately funded. And you to get a Formula One event nowadays, you usually need government funding. Mm-hmm. So can we do that? Can we afford to do that as a country is one thing. I think this is also part of the reason why the minister said they can't fund it as government, and they need sponsors and partners alike to come and help.
And how far are we down that line? Because securing those sponsors is critical for this to progress.
They're looking at 2027 for a race to come to South Africa. I think it's a bit difficult because we haven't even gotten to a point where the track is ready to be grade 1 status. So that needs to happen first. We then still need to get approved. The 25-26 calendar is already out. So we're out of the 26 calendar. We haven't seen the 27 calendar. I think the more realistic is 28-29 maybe. That we could see something like a race in South Africa.
I like the sports minister saying that we can't not afford to have F1. Also, in the same breath, can we not afford to have VAR in local football?
Well, we don't have professional referees in South African football to start with, but then we're going to give them the system, which is going to cost us between 60 and 80 million rand a year. The minister had initially said that in that clip that you mentioned, he said his role was to find the money. Mm-hmm. It's not coming from government. It's going to come from sponsors again. So we can't afford it from SAFA or the PSL. It's going to have to come from outside sources.
Outside sources, indeed. So what exactly is the role of the sports ministry? Is it just for policy? Is it also funding? Is it now in getting involved in more of the governance issues? We're trying to follow the thread of reason and understanding.
This one is a difficult one because if you look at the Suwelele FC club issue, the minister's son being involved causes a little bit of a conflict of interest because the sports minister's role is with regards to policy around sport and creating an enabling environment around sport. But our current sports minister has gotten much more involved in sport in a personal capacity and kind of driving almost personal goals. You have to ask the question, if VAR is brought into the PSL with the insistence of the sports minister and Siwelele FC gets a dubious decision, where do the questions go? Is it a sports minister influence or is it the tool working? You know, it kind of it opens us up to a lot of questions around conflict, and it's a bit of a problem. You know, even with things like watching Springbok matches, viewership is part of the Ministry of Communications, not the Ministry of Sports, Arts and Culture. But the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture is the loudest voice. So it's very interesting. I think there's a lot of questions to be. Sometimes there's a blurring of the lines, I think.
I think so. And we've crossed that lines many a times. And it's almost another question that will be answered long after all of this. Is this a return on investment or a return on ego?
Well, he's going to be a very popular minister, so.
Popular. All right, that's the operative word. Thank you, Ngobile, founder of Cash and Sport. That's our whistle for now. We're going to hold it till the next time we catch up with you here on the business of sport on the National Pulse.
And I suppose the fundamental question, and I heard what you said about ego and legacy and heritage, but fundamentally, and I think maybe this is the one to everyone listening to answer, whether they love F1 like you, Zai, or don't, right, is ultimately, if we host a Formula One event, race in South Africa, how do we benefit? Think about that. Yeah. Don't answer it, just think about it. How do we benefit? Not who benefits, how do we benefit? More sport tomorrow. Yeah.
They all believe they will be crowned champions, but gold medallions are reserved for the best of them all. It is the incredible clash of the 12 African women's national teams. Catch all the 24 matches of the CAF Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024 from 5 to 26 July 2025 on SABC Plus, S3, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
This Mandela Month, SAFM celebrates the spirit of Ubuntu, calling on all South Africans to engage, uplift, and do good for one another. Let's share what we have, lend a helping hand, and honor Madiba's legacy through kindness and action. Join SAFM as we bring you powerful conversations, inspiring stories, and voices that drive change all month long. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, leading the conversation.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, let's get to, well, from the business of sport to the business of business, I suppose. And you know what? No matter what you do, that's the one part you can't ignore. Like it or not. And who's on the money with that? With all the VAR on business of business, it's going to be Jimmy Moyaha with the SAFM market update. So, Jimmy, your VAR on Fly Safair.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. Yes, FlySafair pilots seem to be on the verge of a strike. This is obviously around the deadlock that has been persisting with the FlySafair teams around wages and leave and all sorts of other conversations there. So I thought we'd take a look at that. We're going to speak to both sides of that conversation. We're going to speak to the union representing the pilots as well as to FlySafair directly and see if we can get to the bottom of what is going on there. I doubt we'll be able to mediate on that conversation. It's best we stay away from that, but perhaps we can shed some light around what is happening there and what developments are unfolding. And then we're also going to take a look at the conversation around Temu, the online retail outlet that has announced that they're launching a warehouse in South Africa for the distribution or better distribution of some of their products. But they also came out with a statement condemning the counterfeit goods that are in the market and stating that they do a lot of verification from their part on the goods that they sell to the public. So we're going to look at that in a bit more detail. We're also going to take a look at the conversation around low inflation targeting. We know that that is a topic that has come up repeatedly. It seems to be coming up even more now as we edge closer to that 31st of July MPC rates decision. We know that at the end of this month, the Monetary Policy Committee of South Africa is going to be meeting and they're going to be giving us that rates decision. But we also are anticipating that we could potentially be in for lower inflation. So we're going to take a look at that and see how that would then affect our markets. And then we're also going to have an executive lounge conversation. We do that on Wednesdays. We speak to leading executives from around the country and possibly even around the world regarding what it is that they do when they're not being executives. This week's executive is the group CEO of Spark Schools. Looking forward to getting to know him a little bit better. Before we get to all of those stories, a quick sense of how the markets have been performing throughout the day. It has been a relatively stable day on some of the markets. The Bitcoin price is back up, but the rand is a little firmer. If we look at equity markets, perhaps let's start there. International equity indices were all in the red in the case of Asian markets, with the biggest loser there being the ASX in Sydney. European markets all in the green, with the biggest gainer there being the DAX in Germany, up about 0.33%. US markets at the moment, bit of a mixed bag. S&P's down 0.1%, Nasdaq's up 0.1%, and the Dow Jones is up about 0.1% if you're looking at the futures there at the moment. If we look at the local front, the resource counters were down 1.57%. That was offset by the 0.9% gains in financials and the 0.18% gains in industrials. As a result, the all share finished up 5 basis points to the green. The top 40 was down about 1 basis point, so basically flat on the day compared to yesterday. And if we look at those currencies, the rand against the dollar, 17 rand 80, 1 British pound, 23 rand 97, 1 euro, 20 rand 83, 1 Australian dollar, 11 rand 65. And as I said, Bitcoin moving up again, 118,000. Still not back at the all-time highs that we saw of around 120,000, but $118,000 a Bitcoin in rand terms is around 2.11 million rand. So still above the 2 million rand mark in that case. And quick look at commodities before we go. Gold price, $3,365 fine ounce. Brent crude, $68.05 a barrel. Platinum, $1,445 a fine ounce, gaining a bit of ground there as well. Palladium, $1,290 a fine ounce. So PGMs seemingly keeping up with the momentum that they've started to build up. We're going to look at these in a bit more detail. I've got Sasfin Wealth's David Shapiro on markets with me a little later on, but that's a conversation for just after the 6 p.m. news. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
Perfect. 6 to 7. Do not miss that SAFM markets update. I'll get to you because you're on the pulse in a moment.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
9-time African champions, the Super Falcons are chasing victory to graduate to the semi-finals. But the Copper Queens want to maintain their unbeaten rhythm. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch Nigeria versus Zambia this Friday, 18 July at 5:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, S3, and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
It all starts with advice from FNB Private. Because the perfect overseas trip starts with planning. Save and spend in multiple currencies with your FNB Global account and lock in exchange rates. Enjoy up to 40% off flights with eBucks Travel and order Forex on the FNB app delivered to you at no extra cost. Your adventure awaits. Unlock invaluable with FNB Private. Help changes everything. FNB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP and credit provider. TCs, earn rules and limits apply.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
Right, I need to hear from you. Let's get to Davidson first, right? So that would be, what, East Rand, Benoni, that area, Ekurhuleni. Hope I've got my facts right. No, maybe it's the West Rand of Joburg, I would think. Castro, go for it. Oh, it is East Rand. Keys is reminding me, of course. I must get it right. Ekurhuleni, East Rand, Davidson, Benoni area. Castro, go for it. Hello.
Thank you, Ashraf. How are you? Long time.
Good indeed. You have too long, man, right? What's your point?
Yes. No. Ashraf, I think regarding the issue of the march to Union Building by Umkhonto as released by the spokesperson of the MK party, I think as ordinary citizens of this country, we need to support such marches because we are concerned, Ashraf. We are concerned of this constitutional difficulty era. And if we don't say anything, Ashraf, I'm afraid we might not be able to come out of this situation. End up being, the allegations of General Tandam Konazi of the drug worries me a lot. When you look into it's run against us. You touch the countries like Mexico and Colombia. I'm just worried that are we going to keep quiet and not say anything? It is my belief that there are a lot of things that are happening. The Commission of Inquiry, if indeed President Ramaphosa was serious about this, and I still feel that he was supposed to invite Mogoeng to head that commission, because we have a chairperson of the commission that is about to retire. Well, there are other people who have retired a long time ago, simply because of the outspoken against corruption. They can't be invited to this what you call cover up.
But then Mogoeng effectively became a politician as well. Just remember that, which just changed the dynamics. Castro, I need to move on. I need to hear others too.
He didn't join any party. There were people who invited him to come, but he was never in the ballot paper. We don't remember him being in the politics. That is why even when he was told of the privileges, Mogoeng, I think, did not form part of any politics there. So right. my take is that if indeed, and the issue of infringing with the protocols of the intelligence is not also right. You cannot arrest a senior person like that in the Bollywood style. Those people, you can invite them to come to your office and you effect arrest and then you take them to court. This thing of Bollywood
Castro, Castro, I hear you. I think you've made your point, and I'm sure the nation's hearing you because they are. I do need to move on. I need to hear other voices too, right? So thank you for that. Let's get to Rustenburg now. Jan in Rustenburg. Hello, Jan.
How are you, sir?
Yeah, good indeed. Go for it.
Fine. I hear you. We are talking about Mkonazi saga here.
Yeah.
I hear you said the Mr. who's the oncoming
Feroz Kachalia.
Kachalia. Mr. Kachalia is coming in.
Yeah.
I'm asking you a question. Don't we have the deputy ministers?
You mean who's better placed for that? Yeah.
Why appoint another minister? Whereas we've got deputies. What is the work of the deputies, by the way?
Well, listen, there's another whole conversation about that, whether we should actually have all these deputies.
Let's move on. Two, in Afrikaans, they say, the apple falls from the boom off. Ramaphosa himself is corrupt himself. So what do we expect out of all the cronies of ANC? And by the way, it's not Ramaphosa, but it's ANC itself. Ramaphosa takes instructions. It's like an advocate taking instructions from a client. Ramaphosa is one of that kind of a person. Actually, the presidents of ANC, they take instructions from ANC. They just can't decide on their
Jan,
own.
you've made
Now-
your point.
now
Jan,
what-
I need
what
to
must
move
we-
on. Jan, I think
what
you've made your point. Yeah. Jan?
In closure, we have to vote ANC out.
Okay. I hear
We have-
you. And many may be supportive of that. Others will say, no, I think you got it wrong. But that's Jan's thoughts from Rustenburg. In Vuzi Wekai, you want to talk about Formula One? Go for it.
Afresh, I will vote ANC in. But this is my point on F1. I don't think the interview should have focused only on potential spending. It should have focused on the money that will be injected into the economy through fans that will travel to the country, clubs that will travel to the country, and also opportunity for headline sponsors that are private sector that are currently sponsoring other events. The money that is injected in F1, it doesn't only come from the government of hosting cities.
Well, I think you make an important point. So I'm not too sure. Listen, I'm not an expert on F1, but I don't think you can have a title sponsor of the race, right? But I think, yes, there could be many aligned events that they could get huge sponsorship. And I think starting with SA Tourism and maybe brand SA, I think the brand value is, but SA Tourism would jump at it because Formula
There's a
One
lot of
is a
money
huge issue. So get that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
there's a lot of money that we will make from hosting that an event. It's more than what we will spend.
Yeah.
The sports minister is responsible for the sports product. That's why he has an interest, and he should rightfully have it when it comes to broadcasting of sporting products.
Yeah.
So when he talks about it, I don't have all the brief for him, but I think we should be fair in discussing what politicians do and not just criticize them. I felt that the comment that was made that this is about ego and all that, it was below the belt. The man is focusing on sport. Where he is wrong, criticize him. Where he is doing something within his mandate, engage it critically and see what is right and what is wrong.
Okay, well, that's
Thank
certainly
you.
a point that obviously that was the conversations I had with the
Yeah.
reporter. But thanks for that, Mbuzi Wekaya. By the way, just to make the point about the earlier calls we had about Ramaphosa, and I'm reminded about this again to say, like, hold it, you know what, whatever we may feel about it, and we can talk about the legal aspect and the constitution and who's done what. At this point in time, he's never been convicted in court, certainly not for corruption. I'm just making the point that we need to remember that, and my production team is reminding me of that, which I think is important. Okay, let's get to other thoughts from you via WhatsApp.
Hello, Ashraf Gada. Yes, my name is Sam. Yeah, for me, I always listen to you via the radio. Yeah, sometimes when I'm watching the TV on a bouquet. Yeah. Thank you very much, Ashraf Gada.
No,
Always great show.
Much appreciated. It's a
My name is
collective.
Sam.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Really, I'm glad that you're calling because I did ask that question. How do you listen? What is the platform that you actually listen to? Well, appreciate the feedback we've had. And I think, as I often say, it's a collective of call it a champion team because that's what we need. Myself, Temba, Vusani, Keys. That's the collective that makes it happen every single day.
Hey, Ashraf, now that you're going to talk about Palestine, apparently the new Superman movie is being boycotted in Israel because Superman is rescuing brown children and adults who are being bombed by a white man. And these people are carrying a red and green flag. Can you get someone to talk about this new Superman movie and how true is it that it's depicting the issues of Palestine? Thanks, Sibongi.
Thanks for that, Sis Bongi. In fact, my wife went to see it yesterday. So, she saw it. And yes, I think there's no mention of countries. Look, I haven't seen it. But yes, I think there's a subliminal message about who's the attackers, who's being attacked, and who they are. And in terms of global politics, in terms of movie making, that's a very rare narrative that we see, whereas normally it's the other way around type of situation. But I don't know enough. I need to watch it, and you're right, we probably need to talk about it too.
Hi, Ashraf. JJ Desperate. Ashraf, Lieutenant Mkanazi said there's a rot in the police, in the judiciary, and intelligence in Joburg. He didn't say all the from the bottom to the top of those institutions. But if it's gonna go there, 3 months is not enough. 6 months is not enough.
Well, let's see how far that goes. I mean, I think many people would concur with you. That's like the initial time set, expected. There could be extensions and then a full report on that, right? MK Party, let's talk about that.
Afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. MK Party now wants to gately. They forget about their president, our former president of South Africa, Jacob Zuma, is one of the corrupt people in our country. I don't know where do they put him. I thank you.
Well, it's an interesting one in terms of how many people who are supportive of the MK Party are not questioning, former President Zuma's role in so many issues that have impacted on our country, isn't it?
That Ashraf, MK will be MK. We don't mind about that. But let's be honest. If you are a criminal, if you were a criminal, that Ashraf, would you have heebie-jeebies or would you have sleepless nights when you hear that Kwede Mandashe is the Minister of Police? No, you don't. You don't even feel like having sleepless nights. You just do business as usual. Go on and steal and cause havoc in the community.
But I mean, to be fair to anybody, he's only going to be around for 2 weeks as the Minister of Police. I mean, seriously. And that's only because the appointed minister or acting minister, Firoz Kachalia's term at Wits University ends in 2 weeks' time. Then he's effectively retired. So that's really what it is. 2 weeks. That's it.
Hi, Ashraf. How are you? Listen, man, I have this small, actually worry, not a concern. Now that the whole Road Accident Fund Board has been dissolved, is this now going to affect us who are waiting for payouts? Concern from the Northern Cape, Kimberley.
Well, hopefully it will resolve the payouts, because if there's been inefficiency, it's impacted payouts, and hopefully that'll get resolved. I hope you heard the interview I had earlier on, right? But if you haven't, just listen to that podcast as well. Maybe it'll guide you too.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Mhlamulo must know that his president, Zuma, holds a PhD in corruption. He holds a PhD degree. He's a professor, that one. So no, he must not come here and talk about corruption and what with about ANC. Nothing.
Okay, there we are.
Norman from Brixton.
Thanks for that. I'll tell you what, sometimes we forget about who's done what. Starting from, for example, yesterday's conversation with Alan Busak, you almost need to list senior people, including Busak and Zuma and everybody else, in terms of what were they accused of, what were they convicted of, or what were they not convicted of or acquitted of across the board, and probably look at 20 significant people in South African politics just to jog our memory, because I think we need to do that. Right, that's the show. Don't forget, podcasts available. Listen to it again, share it with your friends, talk about it, argue about it, debate it over supper. We'll do it all again tomorrow here on the National Pulse. Right now, it's just gone 6 o'clock. It's the news with Greg.
Thanks again, Ashraf. Eswatini holding foreign nationals deported from the US, and Ramaphosa defends probe over Mkhwanazi claims. Good evening.